on? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Oregon Village Board and a joint meeting with the Park Board. It is Monday, October 15, 2018 at 5 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order and request roll call for the Village Board, please.
Bollig. Boudreau. Carpenter. Here. Glish.
Here.
Jacobson. Here. Peterson.
Here.
Staton.
Here, thank you. So before we go on to next agenda items, I would like to, on behalf of the board, I know I can represent all the village board members here, thank the cable TV staff and Jeff Rowell for installing the new audio sound system in the village boardroom, as well as the TVs that make it better for the public and for the board. So thank you for that. You want to say a few comments, Jeff?
Just real quickly, we are still working some of the tweaks out of the system and the sound, and so they'll be balancing it over the next couple meetings. Kind of the thing to remember, the best possible sound we can get through transmission is about 3 fingers from the microphone. So you can go ahead and move the microphones kind of back to you. The farther you get away from them, the harder it is to get that balance made and everything like that. So just kind of keep that in mind, and we'll continue. If you have any suggestions or if you happen to hear something, go ahead and mention that to Dan back there at the back, and he and Jim and the other guys will be able to take care of it.
Okay, thank you. So item 3 is community input. Is there anyone who would like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to item 4, which is discussion of police budget. So Chief Ewell will come to the front of the room. I'm going to read through all the items on the agenda, Chief, and then we'll go from there. So item A is just police department. B is police building. Item C, review of 2019 goals and 2018 accomplishments. D is uniforms. E, emergency government. F is crossing guards. G is animal control. H is police special revenue, which is Explorers program, community policing, and shop with a cop. I is police canine fund, and J is police equipment in Fund 414, which is emergency operations center equipment and purchase of 2 vehicles. And there are noted page numbers for all those items in our binder. So I'll turn it over to Chief Ewell. We'll approve all those in one motion when we're done. So you're on. Welcome.
Very good. Do I have to follow the items in order, or can I skip around a little bit?
I think whatever works for you.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the village board and Mike as well. I don't want to reiterate everything that he said as far as the budget goes, but I think that, like I said, since I've been involved in the chief's position here, the board has been very supportive of our budget, of our agenda items, the things that we're trying to accomplish. And I appreciate the board's support for that and continuing support as we continue to improve the efficiencies and effectiveness of the police department. Mike had mentioned that some of the major budget impacts had to do with second year implementing a police officer's wage increases due to the union contract. And I think it's important for me to mention that, and remind the board that we did this because we were really low in the pay scale as far as our comparables go. So again, I appreciate your support in doing that. Another impact was the full impact of the 2018 full-time hire of a police officer. I'll mention that simply because one of the budget items that we have is always talking about overtime. And I would say from a budget standpoint that adding of additional officers, we're already starting to feel the effect of reduced overtime in that capacity as well. So I wanted to make mention of that. Increase in the hours of the police secretary position Mike talked about, and that was simply from 24 to 32 hours. Hopefully we have that position filled on November 5th. We're currently doing a background on the subject for that position as well. So as you can imagine, as our call volume increases, our productivity increases, we need more hours to get that work done and the things that we need to accomplish as far as getting the reports to the DA's office and that type of thing. So I wanted to touch on those a little bit. There's another PowerPoint that Mike has talked about as far as major impacts, and that to do with the chief squad and the department squad, and we talked about that already, and that was already approved, so I won't touch on that a whole lot. But again, just wanted to reiterate that I appreciate the board's support on all those items. The next item I want to go to is the department accomplishments and goals. As you can see in that, in red is our accomplishments, and in black are the ones that we're still working on. In 2017, we did accomplish getting the core accreditation done, and we're working on the full accreditation process. Some of the new board members may not know what this is, but basically it's 200 and I think it's up to 42 standards now that the Wisconsin Law Enforcement Accreditation Group requires an agency who wants to become accredited to prove that they're doing, and a lot of that has to do with policies, how you're doing your job, and proving those aspects of accreditation. So it's a kind of a long process, and I hope to have that completed by next year. We work towards 2 officer minimum staffing. I would say because of the additional officers that we're putting on, we're getting pretty close there most of the time. The times that we may not have 2 officers on duty, which I never want to see, but it does happen if we have officers out for vacation. There might be FMLA in there might be in-service training or something like that. Those are kind of the rare times when there may only be 1 officer working on shift. We are in the middle of training officers, instructors. As you know, we are part of a training consortium with Monona, McFarland, Verona, and Stoughton and ourselves. So we have to supply instructors for training, and we're doing that. We had a new EVOC instructor, FTOs, and we're working on a DAT instructor. I'm continuing to work on the Emergency Operations Center so we can make sure that we are ready for any kind of catastrophe that may happen. That's a process, and that kind of goes into the storm ready community. The storm ready community is a little bit more intensive, and it's something I'll probably have to talk to the board about because it's going to require maybe some extra training and additional costs, because one of the requirements of being a storm ready community is to have people who are trained in the Skywarn system as a spotter. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not, but that's one of the things that we have to take a look at and see how we want to do that. We have to provide them with radios or some kind of communication device. And then, and when there's severe weather, they go out and look for tornadoes and that type of thing. So we'll continue to work on that. We completed the LERMS data conversion into our new RMS system, which is Spillman. That system is going very well. I'm very happy with that. In our communication with Dane County, with that, it seems to be going much better than we had prior to that. I'm able to pull data that I couldn't get before. I just brought a couple of examples in, like, I've talked nonstop about theft from autos. I just ran a report today regarding theft from autos in the community, and since January 6th, we've had 27 incidents of theft from autos. And in looking at the data, I can tell you that during the warmer months is when we're having the issue. January we had like 4, February we had 1, then we didn't have anything until June, and then in August and September and now October it's really hitting us hard. So with that type of data, I could just say, okay, hey, look, the warmer months are the issues. We need to focus on those and see if what we can do to try to prevent that. OWIs, I just ran a report on that. We're at about 29. There's a little bit of discrepancy in those because sometimes we get a drug-related OWI, and that's classified under a drug incident. So, but I can run those and I can compare those relatively easy. Jerry's always asking about the canine, and he's not here. I don't know where he's at, but he's always asking about the canine. I ran a report, and we have 79 drug incidents already this year. We had 82 altogether last year, so we're way ahead of the pace on that. But one of the big reasons I like Spillman is because I can pull these reports at an instant and I can get that information. So that's going very well. Some of the things that we're still working on, the confidential informant program, we're still working on that. The LEADS program for detectives, that's a software system that helps them try to track down stolen items. That's a cost issue. And then adding a bike officer, I have that in the budget for 2019. So some of the 2019 goals, we're going to add that bike officer. I would like to put another D on this ad for DARE officer. Add a DARE program for the schools. This is something that the Oregon Police Department had way before me. I think it's 7 or 8 years ago now with the schools. And the DARE program is basically to teach kids to stay away from drugs and alcohol, obviously. And it's a new curriculum now, and I've talked to the school a little bit about that. They're not sure yet. They want to find out more information, but I think it's vital based on the Dane County Youth Survey. We still know that there's drugs and alcohol in the schools, And I think it'd be important for us to be able to partner with them to be able to bring that program back to the schools. Complete the full accreditation, like I said. I'm still working on the EOC. As part of the CI program that I talked about, I'd like, because of our staffing now, I'd like to be able to send an officer to DC NAG, which is the Dane County Narcotics Task Force. That would give them great training as to learn how to do that type of work. I would like to improve department-wide communications with our officers and staff, have some more staff meetings to work on that. I would eventually like to make the police secretary position that I talked about that went from 24 to 32. I'd like to move that up to 40 hours. We're going to need that. We also have to complete a property conversion into Spillman. That's an ongoing process. You'll know, if you recall, we did a full audit of our property room, and that was over 10,000 pieces of evidence. So we have to move that into the Spillman so we have those property records. We are joining the training consortium. We got a grant for a crowd control unit. I talked a little bit about that a few weeks ago with Monona, Verona, Stoughton, and McFarland. So we're going to send 3 officers to that. And then I would also like to improve communications with the school district in regards to safety training and things like that. There's one thing that's not on here that I hope to get, and with the funding from community members, is a automated license plate reader. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but basically what that is a system of cameras that's placed on the squad car, and as you drive by, it reads license plates of vehicles that are driving by or parked, and then it runs it through a system, and it can tell us if it's suspended, if there's warrants out. We can go through and use it for parking if people have been parking at a certain location for any length of time. We can use it for investigations if we have something that's happening in the village and we figure out what vehicle is involved. We can track that vehicle as it moves throughout the village based on what that license plate reader picks up. So it's very useful for investigations, and hopefully by the end of this year I'll have grant funding to complete that. Let's move on to the budget then. We can talk a little bit about, I talked a little bit about the overtime. As you can see, the overtime is going to be going down, hopefully. Actually, the number that we have this year of 27,000 is actually a little bit less than that because we get grant funding for OWI grants and seatbelt grants, which is added into that. So we get reimbursed for that to the tune of about $13,000 or so. So like I said, we're already starting to feel the impact of our additional officer. That's page 10. The police department building. I don't go into a whole lot with the police department building because, quite honestly, that's, as I tell Mike, that's a little bit out of my control. So when things go bad in the police department, we either have to fix them or do without, I guess. So, uniforms, those pretty consistent. The only addition to that is when we add additional officers on. So those, that $550 that they get is very important to them. Contractual services, that's one of the items that went up, and that was because our environmental cleaning costs went up and snow and ice removal. So other than that, I think we remained pretty consistent with staying the same or actually going down. The DaneCom costs have actually gone down a little bit. I did want to talk a little bit about the crossing guard program. I've talked to Mike about this before as well, but that stays the same. But eventually I would like to see the school take this over. I think the crossing guards is a function of school safety that the school should be responsible for, similar to buses and things like that. But that's an ongoing conversation that I'll have with the schools, and I have brought that up to them a little bit. That's always a budgetary issue, though. Emergency government, DaneCon, we talked about that. Animal control, that's pretty much all the same. The canine program, that is going very strongly. Very happy with that. I was appreciative of the village. They did support the purchase of a half of a new squad, and then the canine fund purchased the other half, along with the equipment that goes into that program and into the squad. The equipment, 2019 budget costs, Mike gives us $20,000 to use as we wish, and as you can see on the equipment requests, I requested a rifle for the new squad that we don't have. The taser program, we purchased new tasers for everyone, and that's part of a 5-year program, that amount there. The radio on there, just replacing that. Bike patrol and equipment, that goes to the bike officer. Cindy, our night shift sergeant, was very adamant that she wants our next bike patrol officer to work on nights so they can help with all the vehicle break-ins. We'll see how that works, but that was one of her requests. We need a new taser. I don't have a taser right now, simply because we had a new officer and we didn't have enough. Cameras and tactical shields. Those are important with safety planning and shields and warrants and things like that to help protect our officers. So that we kept that in the $20,000 that Mike requested, so I think we're good to go there, hopefully. Let me see what's next. Emergency operations, we talked about that. Police vehicles, that's already approved. Other than that, I will tell you that the men and women of the Oregon Police Department are working hard to keep our village safe. Like I said, with our additional clerical staff, they're doing their jobs out there. They're trying to reduce speeding. I know that's kind of the number one complaint in the community is speeding. We use the speed trailer as much as we can to try and reinforce the speed limits in the village. They're out writing citations when those are appropriate. Crosswalks are another issue that has come up, and we've done enforcement actions on those areas as well, trying to get people to understand that they need to stop for people who want to cross the road, and we cite with that when that's appropriate as well. I would just like to say that I want to thank our officers for going out there day in and day out and making sure that we're keeping everyone safe in the community. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thanks, Chief. Very thorough. Questions?
For clarification, a bike officer means literally a bicycle, right? Not
Yes,
a
yes.
motorcycle
No,
bike.
no.
I have more of a comment. Starting back at page 76, total police expenditures. And again, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of the way that I review the budget when I see large swings. So it's like about $170,000 swing, less than what was projected to be, less than what was budgeted for this year and less than what's projected for this year. I looked back and just really briefly noted that there was 2 categories that seemed to come close to about 140. Now I'm gonna have a hard time finding them. I think one of them was building and one of them was equipment.
Let me see. I can look at my
What page am I
18
at?
budget here. Oh, sorry.
Well, so Jeff, I mean, you realize that when you do capital purchases, there are going to be some years that things are going to be up and some things are going to be down because of what the purchase is.
Yeah, so let's just say that building and equipment, because I can't find them quickly, let's just say that that's $140,000, and there's another 30 floating around. I would strongly recommend beefing those budgets up a little bit more, getting them a little bit closer, because I would rather deal with money that was budgeted for expense and not spent within reason than have to try to find the money somewhere in the course of the year because we didn't budget enough.
Well, I mean, there is fund balance in 414, and I mean, what I try to do with the department heads, I try to give them an allocated amount of money, trying to keep the debt service from, going up, and we're trying to keep every year in the 5-year CIP within an acceptable level. And actually Lisa are going to probably present that to the board probably in hopefully November, early December.
My only comment, Mike, would be, there's a
I-
difference between presenting a balanced budget because you're projecting extremely low expenses in a category, and then projecting a balanced budget and not budgeting enough in a category. And I'm just trying to walk the line.
The
I don't-
difference is that, there was a roof replacement at the building. That was the jump in 18. So hopefully you don't do that for 25 years again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, otherwise, I think the department has been, since Brian's been here, Brian was just talking about Spillman, that was a $166,000 expense. Brian got body cameras right when he came here, so I think we've been taking care of the police department okay. I mean, we're on a rotating the squads, I think, on a good basis. You know, I think we do two rotations every.
2-1, yeah, 2-1.
So I think we're doing okay. But
Yeah,
thanks for
so
your comment. I
I
appreciate
feel like I'm being misunderstood because I'm not
No,
trying
no.
to say you're not doing good
Oh, no,
or that you're not doing the right things. I'm just saying that's a pretty big swing off of prior years, and I would take a harder look at that.
Yep, but I'll say it again, I think it's the roof. It's almost $90,000 just for the roof. So otherwise, I think it's pretty consistent. But thank you for
Yep.
your comment.
I had another question too. How many crossing guards do we use? How many intersections do we staff? You know,
I don't know, was that 8, something like that?
8?
7 or 8, yeah.
Okay.
Just so you know, my city managers association just did a survey, not a survey, an email survey about a week ago asking this very question.
Did they? Yeah.
Mixed bag, you know, somebody was saying, you know, have you approached your school district? I even forgot where it was in the state. It was truly a mixed bag of, we pay for everything. School district, I'm not sure there was any school district that paid for it all. But it
There
was,
has to be, because Whitewater is one of them.
okay, and well, maybe Cameron
Yeah.
didn't respond, but I mean, most of it was a shared cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even a shared cost would help as
Yep.
well, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm only asking because I'm looking at that budget and figuring about $5,000 cost per crossing guard then. It's 39,000
Yes,
You know,
yeah,
so-
something like that, yeah.
roughly, so I'm just thinking if we can't, for example, get a light at Janesville and South Perry Parkway, if the county is lagging and we really see a safety need, which I think we have yet to look at that issue, that it would only be another $5,000 or so to get another crossing guard until the county can put in a light or do whatever they're gonna do.
Have you seen that as being a problem, with kids crossing that intersection on Janesville and Perry Parkway? Have you?
Oh, that's a tough intersection anyway, so,
Is it? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We put up the lights there last
Oh,
year,
that's right, pedestrian lights in there, yeah.
the flashing lights.
But obviously in the morning and at school dismissal, that's a very tough intersection to get
Yeah.
across. Yeah.
That was all,
Okay.
just pointing it out.
Other questions or comments about the police budget for Chief Buell, anything? Okay, so we need a motion and second, please, on items 4A through 4J. Thank you,
I'll second.
thank you. Any further questions or discussion? All
So,
in favor, please.
can you just clarify something for me?
Yeah.
So what exactly are we voting, are we voting to approve the budget as presented?
Yes.
Is that what the motion is?
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll do that for every item as we go through, like we did the last meeting. Yeah.
okay.
And this comes back to us again.
How so?
Well, when the budget year starts, there are a number of things that we approve as time goes on, not everything, obviously, but there are things that will come back to us.
And CVC at the public hearing too.
Yeah, and then November 12th, we have a public hearing, so. And if questions arise after this, board members can get those to Mr. Grace, and they'll come back to us to talk about it another time also. Other questions? Okay, so again, we have motion second, on items 4A through 4J. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that takes us to, thanks, Chief, for your presentation and your budget.
Sure.
Item 5, discussion possible action hiring a full-time police clerk. Recommended motion is to hire Shirley Hardy as a full-time police clerk at the hourly rate of $21 effective October 22nd. Need that motion, please?
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Comments, please?
Yeah, so as you may or may not know, Pam retired a couple weeks ago. While we were in the process of interviewing for the part-time position, we made an offer to one of the candidates for the full-time position. That was Shirley Hardy, and she accepted that. So we're looking forward to getting her started as soon as we can. And I believe if she is approved tonight, we'll start her on the 22nd. So that will definitely help as Rudy's doing all the duties right now, as far as reports in her job and answering the phone and the front desk, so,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Questions or comments? So again, we have a motion second to hire Shirley Hardy as a full-time police clerk at the hourly rate of $21 effective October 22nd. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, so that will take us to our joint meeting with the Park Board, and welcome to the Park Board, and especially welcome to Emmy Hannibal as a student representative. It's nice to, are you a junior?
I'm a senior.
Senior, okay, I'm sorry. I used to guess high when I worked at school, but I'd heard the rumor you were a junior, so I thought I'd get it right. So good. Welcome. It's nice to see students involved in this process and be interested, so we appreciate it very much. I think you'll find it to be a good experience going forward.
Yes,
Good.
definitely.
Thank you and welcome. Okay, so Bruce, do you have to call for a roll call?
Yeah, I'd like to call the Park Board meeting to order. And can we have a roll call?
Hannibal. Here. Clues. LeBron. Knutson.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
And Strominger.
Here.
Thank you. So item 8 is discussion with the Oregon Soccer Club Board of Directors and Oregon Youth Softball Board regarding J.C. Park West project, and review the email from the village consultant regarding use of baseball fields in J.C. Park West project. So,
Steve, can I just interrupt for 1 second? Could you just mention about, or maybe you want to mention about Dave resigning from the park board, just as a,
yeah.
say, thank you for his
Yeah.
service, and since we have both boards tonight, I thought I'd just mention it.
Yeah, so we have an email from Dave Jameson saying he wants to thank us for the opportunity to serve on the park board for the last 2 years. He's learned many amazing things. He's resigning his position. His job is demanding more nights. His wife is traveling a lot more. So he feels if he can't be here for at least a high majority of meetings, it cannot be helpful to the board. So he apologizes for having to back away, but cannot dedicate the time needed to the board. So says thank you all again for allowing me the time on the board, and I do appreciate the opportunity to help build Oregon. So, and we thank you, Dave, for the time that you spent, and we'll be looking for replacements. So
Thanks, Steve.
thank you going forward, Dave. Okay, so on to item 8, discuss the Oregon Soccer Club Board of Directors and Oregon Youth Softball Board. So, if you want to come to the microphone, please. So I think what we're wanting to hear is your feedback on J.C. Park West. There have been some changes from what we expected. So softball looked like you're ready to go. So why don't you go ahead?
Sorry, I apologize. I have to leave at 10 to 6 for a work appointment. Oregon Youth Softball's been attending the meeting since January, evaluating, looking for progress, determining, and looking at the plans. And we felt that we needed to write a letter to the village board expressing that the softball players play on dirt infields without pitching mounds. And the plans, as well as the budget, indicated grass infields with pitching mounds on all 4 ball diamonds. So in essence, softball was unable, or is unable to, by our softball governing body, to play on baseball fields. So that's why we decided to write a letter to the village board very respectfully, very grateful for the time and efforts that have been going on for the J.C. Park project, because we know it's been years. And we're excited that it's finally coming to fruition, and there's a budget fundraising effort. Thank you, Judy, for doing that. But we wanted to make sure that the board was very clear that the plans and the budget do not reflect softball playable fields at this time. The second point that we had was that it's a very expensive project, and there are multiple fields that, as per the 5-year Village Park Board plan that I reviewed, 101 pages. Great job, everyone. That there are several parks with ball improvements that are potential in those 5 years, which we'd be interested in potentially supporting. As always, we need to take that information back to our board, and we don't know what the timeframes are on those, but those are obviously more affordable fields than the current J.C. Park project, just because of the vast amount of, this is a showcase diamond, J.C. Park West, versus taking some fields and improving some space, like at Rustic Vineyard. We have a very poor playing condition at Rustic Vineyard that could use some improvement. There's also in the park board plan the, let me see if I can get the name of it correct, Bethel Greens Acre Park, says level the playing field to potentially have a ball diamond there. Softball could potentially play there if it was a dirt infield without a mound. That could be in addition to softball. We do have a capacity issue with our diamonds at this point, and we do have parents asking us why we're down in Brooklyn as our major fields and not more in the city. We're currently at Rustic Vineyard is the only field that we use. Kaiser 1 and 2 are booked by men's and women's slow pitch. Is that what it's called? And we don't use those fields except for one tournament. That's it. So it's a usage thing. And then there was another one, Keller Alpine Meadows Park. The major goal of that, as according to the park board plan, was additional ball diamonds. So we might be able to help or support in some way for that as well. So we're just looking to make sure that you know that we'd like to be helpful. There's also a rumor that we would financially support JC Park West, but no one's ever asked us for money, and I don't know what that would look like at this point. So our board is like, well, we have a lot of strategic initiatives that we're doing, but we don't know what's really been asked of us of JC Park West. Plus, they weren't softball diamonds. I know that's a lot to throw at you. I apologize.
Amy, did you see the second email I sent you from the consultant?
I did.
Okay.
And so if these were dirt infields and the pitching mounds were taken out, that would be fantastic. The second part of that then, though, is who gets priority on those fields? Is it by capacity? Is it by dollar amounts that the youth organizations donate? What would that be? Is it by how many kids actually are in the program? Because if baseball is already at capacity and we are going to be at capacity and the school district is growing, what's the plan for who uses those fields? And because baseball can play on dirt infields without pitching mounds. A lot of their youth program can do that. So those are really great multi-use fields. So we would applaud that, and I would need to take that back to my board in terms of changing our mind, obviously. Yeah.
Any comments or questions from park board or staff or folks over here?
I think you make some some valid points, and I think the Parks Board is probably still, I don't want to speak for everybody because I'm relatively new on the Parks Board, and they had made that plan before I got on the Parks Board, but you know, if that's in the plan, development of other fields and stuff, and that would help your capacity issues, and you would certainly be able to use the JC Park West fields at some point. You know, that might meet your needs, working on those other projects, but I'm not sure how soon that would happen. I don't know enough about.
I think it's fair to say that, you know, this has kind of been in the works for a while. And based on initial discussions, I think we felt like we were doing what people wanted in the different sports associations. But as it's gotten more firmed up with the actual plans and costs and stuff, then, as you said, more questions have come up.
Yeah.
You know, how are the priorities for use, and what's the fundraising actually look like, that type of thing. So those obviously need to be worked on, probably the park board to bring to the village board as we continue going forward with it.
Actually, it's on tonight's agenda. It was hard for us to approach him until we actually get what we have on the agenda tonight approved.
Yeah. So we'll continue working on those starting tonight. Questions or comments, anything else over here? Or from the park board? Okay, then we're ready to hear from soccer. Welcome.
Thank you. So we were at the park board meeting most recently, and essentially we just
Excuse me, could you
I'm sorry.
introduce yourself? So we
Yes,
have-
sorry. Eric Anderson.
Okay, thanks,
I'm
Eric.
the Oregon Soccer Club president. As I said, we were at the park board meeting, the most recent standalone meeting, and just wanted to make ourselves available to answer any questions that people might have after we sent this letter that is in your packet. But we had good conversations, answered questions. Our issues are different, I would say, than, well, for the most part, are different from softball's concerns. We are at a capacity issue, and while we would support improved fields at J.C. Park, that would be great, considering what do I like to say, the way water affects fields in this community. That would be great, and we completely agree with that point. But at this point, if these projections, I mean, even with what we are now, but looking at the projections of the school district growth, our board strongly feels that anything that we are going to get behind financially needs to be based on increasing the number of fields that we could play. And we don't see that happening in this case. It definitely would be an increased square footage area that could be played as soccer fields. We've brought this up before, though. They're multi-purpose fields, really. Lacrosse, obviously, would want to play on them, I'm sure. Rugby, I'm sure, would want to play on them. And it's a public facility. We completely agree that everybody should have the right. So that is the part where we would agree with softball, which is how would this all work and go together? So I think between that and the fact that in the end, while it would increase square footage of what could potentially be soccer fields, we just felt like we needed to make it clear that we don't see ourselves financially supporting it, because it just, I mean, if we get 25%, even if we get 25% more kids playing in the next 10 years, I have no idea where we would put them. We use every field that we're given access to by the village and the school district. And I mean, grass fields need time to rest. They get very, torn up and muddy if you don't. And we use everything as much as possible, with acknowledging that we do need to try to let grass grow and not just run everything into dirt. But yeah, so we're here to answer questions. I have two other board members here with me, but we don't really have another statement beyond this. It's just, if anyone has questions, we're more than happy to answer them.
I had a question. Have you as a board met since you were at the park board meeting?
No, we meet Thursday night,
Okay,
so 2 days or 3 days.
okay. I was gonna just see if you'd given any thought to giving your non-financial support to J.C. Park, like trying, offering maybe to fundraise, but not taking your own current funds and putting them towards.
Yeah,
but-
that was one of the ideas that came out of our discussion at the park board meeting. So we will be discussing this topic on Thursday,
Okay,
for sure.
good.
And a question, Eric, do lighted fields, obviously, if you had lighted fields, more games could be played later. It doesn't really solve, I know you mentioned fields need to rest, so, overplaying them doesn't help, but does the fact that any fields will be lighted, does that help
Well,
you?
I think that would be somewhat helpful. I mean, honestly, turf would be the bigger one that, then you wouldn't have any of those issues. That was one thing that our board has talked about. I think the other thing with lights is, I mean, we are still, all of our players are still students, and we can't go too late into the evenings. So that would be one thing where this time of year, it would, allow us to go a little later. Once we get less and less sun. But overall, I'm not sure that's not a big, huge thing. I think it's just the space, really. I mean, it's just being able to find space. I mean, there are, I was out walking some fields today. There are places like next to the skate park where we used to play. You used to see soccer games there all the time. We can't play it. It's a lagoon.
It's wet.
Yeah,
It's
all
wet.
the time.
Yeah.
And it used to be wet, and then it would get dry.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, we have bike trail like that too.
Yeah. That's right.
And
I hear you.
that stuff is probably not gonna change,
Yeah, yeah.
which
no,
is, another reason we have high hope for J.C. Park West with a bit of drainage and stuff. But
Well, and again, we completely agree with that. That part we don't, but if we have nice fields, that's nice, but, unless they have like 2 levels of fields, we don't have anywhere to put more kids, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, there's kind of a limit on how many we can put on.
If I just have a comment. It seems as if it would seem as if a step back would be in order, that we would step away a little bit from the execution of a plan that addresses an element that's needed in the village, and maybe take a look at this holistically. Get everybody in the room that has an interest, whether it be youth softball, youth soccer, baseball, whatever it might be.
Which we did.
Yeah,
We've done that for a long time.
that we would look at the entire
But
community.
we are fundraising, Jeff.
That we would
And
look at the
we don't
entire-
wanna stop now.
Sorry, Judy, just if you could let me finish my thought, because I got guy brain, and if I get off of it, I'll be staring at you for the next 2 hours trying to remember what it was I was trying to say. What I have not seen come through is I have not seen a holistic plan come through that says these are all the available areas that we have to develop. These are the uses that we're going to develop these areas for. In order of priority, in order of impact, these are the ways that we're going to go through the community and develop these fields over the next 10 years. What I have heard is, we'd like to do this major improvement in this area. Eventually, we might do an improvement over in this area, and then families coming through and saying, what about the parking in this area? So, to me, not to take away from what we're doing in J.C. Park and where we are at in J.C. Park, I feel like what's going to happen if you move too quickly without bringing everybody along is you're going to start to get drag. You're already getting some drag right now.
We brought everybody along. They were at all of the meetings.
You're getting drag, and it's going to affect fundraising. And in order to avoid that, you got to make sure that everybody feels like they're being included in the plan. And here's 2 representatives that don't feel they're being included in the plan. And that's going to be an issue when you're trying to get the whole community behind what we're trying to do.
And we feel bad because we wish they would have came forward before.
But they're here now.
And Eric even says he wishes he would have came forward.
But they're here now.
Openly admit that.
Well, and softball will admit that too, but I'm new to the village and park board process. I've never had any experience with public policy at all, and frankly, we just turned over our board after 17 years. We just turned over our board in January. And so amazing run. And that past board person was the person who had been involved in the meetings. So from my perspective, the only information I received about J.C. Park West was coming and sitting in here in the meetings since January. And so gathering information, and truthfully, as a citizen, as the board president, I didn't know who I could talk to, when I could talk to, who I could email, when I could pipe in during a board meeting and raise my hand and say, oh, wait, I got an idea. I'm not familiar with government, and so I do apologize for that. And Judy, I apologize to you because what you're doing is amazing. I have event planning and fundraising in my background. Like, God bless you, really. Seriously, I know, and I can feel your frustration too because that's part of my angst too, is coming here and talking about this at this point. But we need to get everybody in the room again because Eric and I are concerned about if we do phase 1 and we get the fundraising we need by the beginning of the year, like you're talking about, which is like amazing. What do we do then when we're losing fields? What does baseball do when we're losing fields? What does that look like? Where are they going to go? Because if we need to find 25 grand to do Bethel Grace in February or March as soon as the snow is gone, to be able to use that field for soccer and whatever, what do we need to do? When do we need to do that? And that steps up to your plan then, Jeff, is do we need to make an investment with the park board and they know that they're going to spend this much money over the first 6 months of the year to prep ourselves so that we can then move fields off of J.C. Park West and get J.C. Park West done?
Well,
But I don't know who leads that.
Sorry. So I just want to give you a little history of this, please. So we and actually you referred to that. We did a very extensive study by Vanderwall, even before the Park and Rec plan. So we've been looking at this for the last 2 or 3 years. So we just didn't just stumble out of the dark and come up with this plan. We've been working on this for a while. And initially, the village is only going to put $500,000 into this project because of everything else we have to do in our CIP. Now we're spending $1 million. So you have to answer your question. Some of it is just money. If money wasn't an issue, we'd be doing a lot of things that they're saying, but it comes down to how much money does the village board want to spend on Park and Rec?
Yeah,
plans.
so
But-
for example, right, you just mentioned two playing fields that are underwater over there, by J.C. West Kaiser Park area, right? They haven't historically been underwater. We've got developers that are looking to find places to put dirt. So I'm not saying this is the solution, but what I am saying is that if we knew that all we wanted to do was to raise those two playing fields by 4 feet, and we had a strategy to do that, and a cost that went along with it, and we could save 2 playing fields in the process of doing that, if that's something we could do quickly, we've just addressed part of the issue. Now, that's not a long-term solution, it's a short-term solution, and maybe it's not even feasible because drainage, Jeff might say, no, those are supposed to be kettles because they're supposed to catch runoff. I don't know. But what I can say is, to Amy's point, I come to every meeting for the last 5 years. I've been here at every meeting, and I, in my mind, do not have an understanding of how we're going to approach playing fields in the village of Oregon from one end of the village to the other, from Anderson Park to Netherwood. I don't know that answer, and I'd like to know it. I'd like to be able to say this is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and then have the flexibility to move around. But I think we moved too quickly into a $1.5 million project, which actually is a $3 million project. $1.5 million only gets us part of the way, and we haven't picked up the rest of the community.
Right, but the number one thing that we get here that they're all talking about, these fields would drain. That's the problem. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of our fields. They don't drain. When we had our early morning staff meetings with a lot of people, that was one of their main concerns besides not having enough fields, is that how can you get on the fields in April and May when you have a wet spring because they don't drain well? And that's one thing we would get from this new park, or redeveloped park.
I think we have to do J.C. Park West. Please don't get me wrong.
Right.
I think I love the concept. I love the planning that's gone into it. I think that that's a fantastic project for the village. But what I'm hearing Amy, I'm sorry, your name?
Eric.
Amy and Eric say is there's no room for them necessarily in that project. And I think that that's a legitimate concern. And I also think that there are things that we could be doing, perhaps, with the money and the time that we do have in the short run to improve some of the playing surfaces that we do have. Kaiser Park, we talked about getting a price tag for
Yep.
for a rehab of Kaiser Park. And I
That's
know
coming.
that's in the works, but
Yep.
that's an example.
Yep.
And I think if Eric and Amy understood how they fit in the master plan, they might be more inclined to throw all of their support behind J.C. Park West, which would launch that project, as opposed to dragging, not understanding how their interest is going to fit in that project. And I'm trying to think of the couple that came through. They were talking about the Bergamot parks and how cars are parked on both sides of the street and how concerned they are about that, and also concerned about not knowing how to get on those parks. And that kind of brought up a conversation where Judy was talking about, scheduling of the parks and how that currently goes through the school district, and it's a little wonky. And that brought up the conversation where you were saying what we really need to do is hire a planner, a parks guy, a parks director, gal, parks
Yep.
director,
Park director.
who would
At some point.
coordinate all of that. And again, those conversations started, but we never really got any further with that. And I kind of see all of this is connected. It's like a funnel. And what I'm finding tonight is we haven't gotten everything in the funnel yet.
And we want to be part of the solution. We just don't know where to begin with that.
Well, one of the things we did way back when is we asked each organization to give us their needs. And I don't remember those off the top of my head. Maybe we need to go back and do that, because that's sort of what got into this. Again, that's what the thing that was driving us, to be honest, with the village staff, was parking. Our goal was to create a better parking situation out there and get the kids talking about running
Yeah,
across Bergamot.
off Oak Street.
Yeah, I mean, so Jeff and I are focused on getting those 2 lots built, maybe no matter what, along Oak Street at some point. And so that's how it started, and then we got into doing this, and then we eventually said, well, we're gonna put $500,000 into the park. We came to the board and talked about that. And then, I think after talking to Matt and I prepared that resolution, and, so I mean, this is not just something that came out of the blue. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yep.
And again, I'll say, like we said at the park board meeting, it comes down to money. I mean, if we take some of the money that we're gonna put in this park and start doing these other parks, these other fields, is the board willing to provide funding to finish this project?
So I see it slightly different, and I just want to, I don't want to change what you're saying, but I just
Okay.
want to add an element to it. I really think what this comes down to is people. And let me explain. My experience in fundraising has told me that even when the money is set, if you can't get all the people that are affected by the decision on board, what winds up happening is you get resistance and pushback. And sometimes it's quiet and sometimes it's loud. The worst kind is the quiet kind. So an example of that is we had originally scheduled J.C. Park West to have an extra soccer field, I believe, in the upper right-hand corner. Somebody came through and said, that should be pickleball. You're forgetting about the seniors. So we had a meeting and a conversation about changing that to pickleball. Last week's Oregon Observer, the group that drives pickleball in Oregon, is more focused on raising money to rehab the existing tennis courts. They're not even thinking about raising money
No.
for J.C.
They're
Park
working-
West.
They're raising money for this.
Yeah, that's not what I read.
No,
So-
they're raising money for this.
That's not what I read. And if that is what they meant to put in the paper, that's not what I got out of it.
Okay.
So the point is, it's really, I get from what you're saying from an administrator's perspective, the dollars and cents got to come from somewhere. But I think
With everything
really,
else, we have to do the roads and building a new library. I mean, to me, there's only so much money out there for everything.
So the youth organizations have some money.
Yeah, there's only
We
so
just
many
don't
tax
know how
dollars.
much stuff costs. I mean, if we can get a soccer field at one of the parks that's currently not a soccer field, we need to know how much that is so Eric can bring it back to his board. I need to know how much Bethel Greenacre. I'm so sorry. I just learned this name today when I was reading the park board, 101 pages. Oh my God. Bethel. I got that. If we knew how much that would cost, I could bring that back to my board and be like, I can help. I can come back to you guys and be like, here's how much I could do. But my question is, you're saying you're going to donate $500,000 and $1 million out of the park board. Does that mean that the 5-year park board plan doesn't exist until you can somehow recoup your $1 million that you're putting into J.C. Park West?
We're not going to recoup it.
No, do you know what I'm saying though? Because that's my confusion. How much money is in the budget for the 101 pages of the park board plan set aside then the $500,000 and the $1 million for J.C. Park West? Because all the stuff that I see in there for the other parks, where's that allocation coming from? If you're saying there's no money left.
There's an annual allocation every year we give, and that's what we're actually going to talk about later on in the meeting. But as far as doing a major project, we have budgeted $1 million to do this park.
So there is other money for the other stuff that's in the plan. It's just not allocated
Not
yet.
at this point in the CIP. It's a 5-year capital improvement plan that we have put together. And at this point, we have $1 million set aside for this park.
So there's no money for any of the other stuff in the
Not at this
101
point.
pages? Okay, so all of the suggestions, there's no money for them?
Not at this point.
Okay, I'm clear. Thank you.
Would,
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, would there be money in the 2020 budget?
It doesn't mean that the CIP changes every year.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, yeah,
As you know.
we budget every year,
Right.
so I don't feel like it's never gonna happen. We set a budget every year.
Thank you for the
For-
Yeah.
clarification, because like I
Yeah, I
said,
can
I'm
see your
not.
look of panic.
For example,
I don't do this on a regular basis.
For example,
Fear not. There's hope.
So 2020, there might be hope.
Yes.
In the 19 budget, we have money set aside to do, if the park board and the village board agrees, to do the plan for Highlands of Netherwood Park, which is a brand new park on the west side of the village. And so at some point, we'll get that done, we'll get an estimate, and then we'll come back to both boards and say, do you want to include the development of that park in the budget? But at this point, it's not in the budget. And I'm just being very, very honest with you. When you look at our budget the next 5 years,
Yeah.
we're talking about doing a new library, possibly 2 other municipal buildings, and 3 major street projects. There is a limit to what we can spend tax dollars on.
Absolutely, and we just want to
I'm not trying to
know.
lecture, I'm just saying.
No,
I have a
absolutely.
perspective
Yeah.
that I'm worried about it, to be honest with you.
and I think that's what I'm hearing is the big difference, is you're speaking very informatively about what the taxpayer can do through levy.
Right.
And what Amy and Eric are talking about is what the private citizen can do through fundraising. And somewhere in the middle, this public-private entity comes together and gets more things done. And I think that's the piece that's missing. And when I was originally talking about, I wasn't trying to disparage what Judy's doing with J.C. Park West, because I know how much energy and effort goes into a major campaign like the one that Judy and the group are undertaking right now. But what I'm saying is that we're leaving funders behind by not helping them understand where they're going to fit in the
Well,
plan, not
Jeff,
from a taxpayer's
in our
perspective.
Defense, in our defense, we thought everybody was on board on this until we got these letters.
Yeah, and that's
So why would we be looking the other direction? Again, we thought we're gonna spend $1 million on, in the next 5 years just on this park.
Yep.
We thought everybody was sort of bought into doing this.
Yep.
And so it surprised us.
And
Yeah,
no blame,
people-
no finger
People seem
pointing.
happy that, yeah, we're gonna do JC Park West, that's great, it's great for the sports, it's great for the community, and now some groups have changed direction, and, you know, I understand how that all worked. It's too bad it
Parents
happened
might
at this point in time,
Yeah.
but it did, and I think, Amy, as far as softball, if there's, a place you see a chance to build a diamond, and you have some money, I would say call Jeff Rao, talk with him about the feasibility of it,
Great.
and I'm guessing Jeff can also give you a ballpark guess of a price. It's not a locked-in price, you can't be
say
held a
ballpark?
combo, but,
You just say ballpark,
yeah.
yes?
You're
He's
pretty
so
quick
funny.
tonight, Jeff. I thought you might not catch that.
I'm sure if I
But-
heard that right.
But meet with Jeff and talk about it. So to me, another big issue that's out here that has not been addressed, that is a major issue, is that we keep hearing the village doesn't have enough fields for all of our kids. But we're talking about kids in the school district, folks, not just in the village.
Oh, absolutely.
We have way more than enough fields for kids in the village. And what about the outlying communities doing something? Or perhaps them paying something to the village for the kids that play sports here? You know, kids in all the outlying districts, of which there are 7, I believe, in the school district, they're not paying any taxes to come to these fields. But yet we get criticized because we don't have enough. Well, we do have enough, but we don't have enough for all the kids in the school district. Do I want to have enough for all the kids in the school district? Sure I do. They don't have to be in the village, they can be other places too. But I strongly support youth athletics. I was a high school AD here for 9 years. I support athletics. I think it's important. It has a lot of great benefits. But we need some help from outlying communities too. Not just coming here and saying, we need more fields for our kids in the village. We need more fields for our kids in the school district, folks.
Respectfully, I wouldn't be saying we need more fields in the district. I would say let's maintain the fields that we currently have in the district. And we're also willing to understand and be helpful with that, but we don't know how to be helpful with that. If we need to put some money into Rustic Vineyard to fix it, I can bring that back to my board.
I think I'd definitely welcome.
Yeah,
I'd welcome if,
absolutely.
If a club came to us and said, we have X amount of dollars and we'd love to improve the field out at Rustic Vineyards or improve a soccer field or something like that. I'd love to be able to bring that back to the park board and then to the village board
Fantastic.
for their consideration.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it's an investment in our community, so
It
it's
is,
a
absolutely.
good thing.
And Steve, respectfully, it's not necessarily about the village. The school district has fields that need to be improved as well. We're on RCI. It's in poor shape. We cannot use the brand-new high school diamonds. We have our youth program. So
Yeah.
there are some accessibility issues with the school district fields that the youth organizations are working under. And it's just fact, right? It's like, it's rules and nuances and perceptions and all of that type of stuff. So our primary fields are down in Brooklyn. That's where we host the most of our kids. Because of just availability, and that's a fact. That's not a diss on the Village of Oregon. That's just however many fields there are and how many baseball diamonds there are in that youth or in that adult softball has Kaiser 1 and 2. So it really is, you know, I love the idea of can we get everybody in a room and talk about who needs what when and what don't we know? Because we can only use the fields from like 6 o'clock at night till like 8 o'clock at night. Because you talked about lights. These are kids that have to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night. And parents don't get home from work till 5:30. They're going to get a sub, putting it in their kid and throwing them on the ball diamond. And, you know, I mean, these fields, when you think about them and how much they cost, they're only being played a couple of hours a day in season. So that's another consideration as well, is who needs them, when do they need them, how many do we really need? Let's do an analysis with that, and maybe that's what we can do with what Jeff suggested.
Well, you could send that to me again if you want. I mean, I do have from your previous president or, director. If you want to
Yeah.
resend that to me, please do.
We will absolutely do
Yeah.
that. I want everyone to understand very clearly that we want to be part of the solution.
Yeah, you give
That
that
this is a
impression.
really, really
Yeah.
exciting time.
Absolutely.
And that it's not all about athletics. It's about a well-rounded Village of Oregon in all of the parks that you have available and in everything that you do. And so Eric and I are here because we want to create the best plan moving forward so that we're not stuck. And so I very much appreciate your time, but I need to go teach some Girl
Yeah, we
Scouts about
understand.
something.
Yeah, and as you leave, I'm going to mention too, and Mike mentioned this, is we don't have a Parks and Rec director. We're not quite there yet. And the not quite there yet is, I mean, we could have one not full-time, but the not quite there yet is the money to pay for that and what goes with that. But that's going to happen at some point, I would guess fairly soon. And then a lot of these things, there's a person directly in charge of doing that on a regular basis. But if you have fields that you want to work on improving and you have the resource to do that, again, talk to Jeff.
Talk to Jeff.
He'll be
Call
more
the
than
park
happy to work
department.
with you on that. Yeah.
Hey, we're all having some growing pains, right? It's all going to be good,
Yeah,
right?
it's only going to get worse the way the school district is growing, so it's going to be a lot more kids.
But we can all be part of the solution, right?
Right, that's the
Right.
plan.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the plan.
Thank you all for your time. I
Thanks,
greatly
Amy. Good
appreciate
job.
it.
Can I add one more point?
Yeah.
Yes, I know to introduce myself. You didn't.
I'm Dan Pultz. I'm the treasurer for Oregon Soccer and Oregon Youth Football. The one thing that I don't think anybody, or maybe they have thought about, is when this J.C. Park stuff starts, we're going to lose fields for 1 to 2 years, at least 1, if not 1.5 years. Where are we going to play?
We've thought about it. I'm working with some of the other municipalities, trying to see if we can go over there, but we have not got anything in stone yet.
You know, that, I mean, that's, we got to get that going before you can start ripping up grass, because I know we'll probably end up going to Fitchburg and stuff like that, but some of it's actually kids practice after school, and they physically can't go places. I mean, they can't drive, they can barely ride their bikes any distance. So that's something that needs to be step one, part of the whole step. But if you don't do that, then all of a sudden Oregon Soccer, we're going to go from 900 kids to 700 kids, because kids are going to go play someplace else, or join the 56ers, or join whatever it is. But if that needs to be part of the plan, and I haven't heard it addressed anywhere. So that's my 2 cents for the day.
Yeah, that was talked about a while back, but long enough back, I cannot remember. Sorry.
And thank you
I've
for,
forgotten more than remember.
and
in
thank you
doing
for
this.
teaching me history. I remember that. That was quite a while ago.
Yeah, I won't mention your grade.
Thank you.
I do have a question. If we were to figure out fields in Oregon that's accessible, would you guys be more open to supporting?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem
Development?
with the supporting part is if for some reason we really don't gain any fields and we have to produce 50% more fields someplace, we're going to have to do our own fundraising and buy some dirt and make our own fields. So if we tap the funding source for something that we won't use versus something we will use, we have that's tough. And we don't know what we can do right now. Because right now, as Oregon said, by 2030, we're going to have 50% more kids. So that we would go from 900 to 1350. We would go from fields, right now we have how many fields? You got to multiply that by another 1.5%, 1.5 times. So we have a fine line to figure out where we want to, which person we want to back. And right now, we're not gaining anything by the new fields. There'll be better fields, and we might be able to use them more, but we don't know that because there could be lacrosse, rugby. So netting at the end of the day, we might not actually have any more additional time on the grass. Plus you still need time for the grass to grow. So I don't know. We really don't know what we're doing right now.
Yeah. You know, and going back a ways, you know, our impression was that soccer was quite enthusiastic about having fields that would drain better and be more playable and that type of thing. And I think what's happened, you've given this more thought, more conversation, and so that plan changed some. And I understand that can happen. That's how plans evolve.
Because the school district brought that forward. We didn't, until this new referendum coming out for the new elementary school, we didn't understand that the population was going to 50% increase in the school district.
Yeah.
And that's not, like you said, the village isn't increasing by 50%, but the school district, especially because of, the new school is over by Lacey or something,
Yeah.
I think, potentially. So, that's the problem of, and I don't even know how we're going to deal with kids practicing over here. They're going to be separate teams because of physically in different locations. We have a lot of headaches ahead of us right now, so.
Yeah, that's what growth does. It's a lot of headaches.
It's a good problem, but it's still a problem.
I'd ask, I'm sorry.
No.
I'd ask the same thing I asked Amy, if maybe send me another email with an updated, what you, going forward, what you need, so we can show that to the park board, if you would, please.
Sure, we'll work on that. We
Okay.
have, we got that. We got a meeting this week too,
Okay.
so
Thank you.
we'll get back to you. Thank you.
And here's another thought too, keep your eyes open. If there's an opening on the park board, it'd be awesome to have representation there, right? If you want to make a change in the parks, then
Be a part of
consider,
it.
consider being on the board.
Yep.
Or even asking Steve if there's room to add a couple of bodies, I don't know.
Any other thing else? The Brewers are playing pretty soon, so.
It's gonna come on in just a minute.
I think Matt had a comment.
Yeah.
Well, I just had a kind of a question comment, building on some of the questions that have been asked about, is there a broader plan where you could look at the plan and see where everyone fits in? And my question is, I haven't looked at the park plan, but I thought we just did recently do an updated.
We did. That's what Amy was referring to. Yeah.
And so my question is, does that plan give you that? And I would think it would. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it.
So my thought is if it would, then that's a really simple conversation. When somebody like Eric comes up to Mike and says, "Hey, Mike, how do we fit in?" Instead of Eric having to come and talk to the entire village board, Mike just says, "Well, here's the plan.
Well,
These are our thoughts."
Yeah, and I guess what I don't know is,
It's not that detailed.
it doesn't get to that level of detail. It's probably at a higher level of, we need X number of square feet of park space
You gotta-
for X number of population growth.
You do it for a number of reasons, including applying for state grants.
Right. And setting impact fees and
Setting impact
things like
fees,
that. So, but I mean, maybe that could be
Well, it's a good-
incorporated
yeah,
in the
it's a
next
good starting
version of the plan. There could be some more substance on that.
Yep.
That kind of goes along with what I was thinking as I was hearing everybody speak, was that when we talk about the downtown plan, it's, we're focusing, it's very clear that we focus on one thing now, but the timeline for everything. So people don't mind waiting, they don't mind supporting this one venture because they know this next thing is happening, and we don't talk, like even when we were speaking about the JC Park, the entire project, we haven't spoken about it in those terms. So if that is in the park plan, which I'll admit I have not read, then we need to start speaking about it in those terms the same way, because I think, again, kind of like to your point, it's easier for people to get on board when you can say, oh yeah, but this is your component, it's right here.
I'm sounding like a broken record tonight, because
Yeah.
we're talking about the budget. It comes down to money. You will see when you see our capital improvement plan that we purposely took out. We got like 4 major street projects, and we actually tried to spread them out over the next 5 years, so we didn't hit every year just additional costs. I mean, again, it comes down to a board decision about increasing taxes.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Not to go-
I'm going to give you a really practical example of the perspective. I'm coming at it from 180 degrees opposite perspective of where you are.
Yep.
I'm going to talk about the food pantry for 2 seconds.
Yep.
The food pantry was part of the capital improvement plan.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally on the docket to be a building that was going to be invested in by the village. That was taken away by a not-for-profit.
Possibly. But
That was taken away by a not-for-profit. In the end, the village very generously donated $10,000, but got $1 million food pantry
Yep.
from that investment.
Yep.
That same exact model plays in this field. This is way more complex. There's way more stakeholders. It's not apples to apples, but the concept is the same. It's not about whether the village can raise $3 million to take care of all the dirt in the village. It's about whether the village can engage enough residents to where they can get motivated and mobilized to raise the money that the village can't raise to get the projects done, in my opinion.
Which is what you're doing with this project.
Yeah, that's what's happening here, Jeff.
That's a great example. It's a great example. And we're just adding to the conversation. Now there's a couple other entities that are coming and saying, we look at this, but we don't see ourselves. It's the same thing all over again, saying, well, this is where you fit, and this is,
Yep. And we always say that when the board looks at the 5-year capital improvement plan, you go out more than 2 years, it's gonna change. And so will the village board at some point add some additional park projects? Probably. It sounds like it may happen. But again, the consequence would be of how do you juggle all the other major projects in the CIP?
It's not gonna blow up, don't worry.
That's the heat coming on.
It's done that for a long time.
Boiler's on.
This is another thing we need to do that we don't
Yeah,
have money for. It's over $1 million, folks, just so you know. And we didn't plan that to happen that way either.
So I really-
So Mike, didn't
I'm
Mike
not trying to argue
Slavny,
that. I'm just, sorry.
didn't Mike Slavny do a plan a couple of years ago on some potential sites for
Playing fields. Look
lots
at
of playing fields?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, again, that
Yeah,
was a
we
couple
have
of years
that.
ago, I don't recall all of that, but we can pull that back out and look at it too, which might be a place where soccer would buy some land and do something.
There's actually 40 acres out by Anderson that is set up for sports, but it's landlocked. And if somehow we can get access to it, I mean, Oregon soccer would jump on that. But right now, it's 40 acres surrounded by a lot of 40 acres, and there's no access to a road. and we're not buying a helicopter to move kids back and forth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how can you fix that problem? I mean, the land is physically there supposedly to be used, it's county land to be used for sports or youth sports, or I can't remember the exact terminology.
Well, some of that's part of the Anderson Park master plan, and
Right.
that also is the acquisition of the county purchasing land, and so they're purchasing land as it goes. So it'd be important to get all that information. I don't want to make any speculations
No,
about
but-
that.
According to, I'm sorry. So I have discussed that with the county. They own the 40 acres that are designated for sports fields in the middle of that, but they do not own, as Dan said, any of the land around it. So they asked us if we knew how to get an easement, and we don't. So that's kind of where that.
So village staff was obviously, we spent a lot of time working on this, and Steve's right, without somebody on staff, it's Jeff and I doing this when we have time.
Yeah.
So this has taken a lot of our time. Thank God for Judy's help on this and Lisa's. So what I will say, we have been talking internally that we are gonna go back and revisit Anderson Park. We're gonna have a meeting with the county park staff, because there's a gentleman that owns the property between that property you're talking about in Union Road, and maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we actually met with them, we were thinking of trying to do a land swap. So we haven't forgotten about that, we just haven't had time to go back, but we are gonna go back and revisit that, probably in 2019.
I mean, is there something we can do on that to try to
Buy
the guy presents
Sure.
or something?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever we can do to
Yep.
try to help that. I mean, if we can swap that over, all of a sudden the village. I guess that's actually in the town.
It's in town.
The town.
Correct.
Anyways,
Yeah.
There's 40 acres of potential
Yep.
youth sports area, which is as big as JC Park.
Yep.
Correct.
That's correct.
So I mean, all of a sudden you could make that into softball field, or not. I mean, say if you just make it into soccer fields, football fields, lacrosse, rugby. I mean, you would cover that for the rest of my life, if not more.
When we met with the county staff years ago, we tried to get I think the area where the dog park is, we tried to get that area, but we thought, well, that's right off the highway, would be perfect, but that was already designated for a dog park, so then we started looking at what you guys are referring to. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so that property is surrounded by other private property, and you need an easement for a drive to get to it. Have you talked to anybody about that?
We have not.
We don't even know who to. I mean, if someone could send us in a direction.
Talk to Jeff Rao about He wasn't a student of mine, just kind of ways to go yet. Yeah, just, you
The
know.
Friends of
But
Anderson
talk to
Park would
Jeff
be the
about
best
that easement
avenue. They're the
process.
community representatives. I'm
And
going
how
to
to do
work
that.
with them as well. And they're the best avenue because they developed the master plan with the community, with the county. The county is going to respond to that reaction.
Dane County's going to be the one that's not here.
Well, I'm saying the Friends of Anderson Park are the ones that are communicating with it because they're working with the master plan and they're going to do the dog park engineering plan this year.
I would reach out to the county staff again.
Yeah, I stand corrected. Don't talk to Jeff. It appears that won't help. So, but you can find out from Jeff who at the county could be helpful.
Jeff can get you in touch with the people at the county.
Good job, Jeff.
And the Friends of Anderson Park are really awesome. They are exceedingly organized and fantastic to
Yeah.
work with. So, I mean, they can at least point you in the right direction too. That would be a great resource for how to proceed.
Yep.
I know someone there, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
being involved.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
And I did comment on Mr. Paul's grades. I should say he was a very fine student. I didn't want to mislead anybody here before you went out, so. Okay, so anything else on item 8? Okay, so we'll go to item 9 from the October 4th Park Board meeting. Trustee Peterson, please.
All right, this is a discussion and possible action by the village board regarding the proposed sponsorship policy and agreement. The park board's recommended motion is to adopt the proposed sponsorship policy and agreement. And a note here that the village attorney will prepare the sponsorship agreement. So I'll go ahead and just make the motion and we can.
So that comes to motion.
Second.
Please. Thank you.
The only thing I wanted to mention, Amanda, is that when I actually went back and reread this again before I sent it to Matt to make the changes after the park board meeting, I made some additional changes. And the main one is, let me make sure the park board actually sees this too. Excuse me, on page 7, I didn't think it was necessary to do the monitoring, because we think this was taken from the city of Seattle. The park board and the village board are gonna know who is, asking us, or for sponsorship, so I didn't think that was necessary. So
Yeah.
my recommendation was to remove it, so.
I mean, yeah, well, we're going to sort of monitor it.
Exactly.
I don't know that you need to put it in writing, although the latter part of this agreement does have a, where is it in the back here, about the implementation and performance assessment. It's kind of at the back side, and we can use that form still.
Yep.
But I don't know that we need to explicitly have it in the agreement. I don't know how the rest of the park board feels about that, but I'm okay with taking it out.
The chances that we remember to do that on an annual basis is probably not very good.
Right.
I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to weigh in on the park board? You good with that change? I'm seeing nods, so
Yeah.
I think we're okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on the proposed sponsorship policy and agreement? Park Board, you're all okay with what has come forward, right? You voted on it? Okay. So we have the motion second to adopt the proposed sponsorship policy and agreement. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Then item B, let me see, this is you still, Amanda.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So this is a discussion and possible action by the village board regarding establishing fundraising amounts and parameters for J.C. Park West project. The park board's recommended motion is to adopt the fundraising amounts and parameters for the J.C. Park West project. So I'll go ahead and make that motion also. This lovely brochure made up by Jude.
Okay, let me
By
get
the
it.
chamber, I thought this was mostly you, putting.
Actually, it's mostly Tiffany, so.
Well, I
Tiffany
stand
and I
corrected,
work
thank you,
together on it.
Tiffany.
And can we get a second, please?
Oh, yeah.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Amanda.
So these values on this brochure, some research was done by Judy to figure out how much, a dugout would cost, or stands and things like that. So, and then the number of each sponsorship opportunity appears in parentheses after what it is. So 8 dugouts, 8 bleachers, that kind of thing. What did we determine that this all comes to if we got 100% sponsorship?
A little over $1 million.
Okay, so that's what we're looking at. We thought that was pretty good.
The only change or comment I had, Amanda, when I looked at this after I got this back from the chamber was, I still think I'm wondering, like, after the word dugouts, it says 8. We should have, after that, should say available. Because somebody may say, because somebody looking at this quickly and going, well, what is 8?
Yeah.
But the word available.
I'd be okay with
That was my only
adding
my
it
only
just to
comment.
be clear, but, we had it before. We had Judy move it before from.
It was-
It was in small print at
Right.
the end of it, and we thought it'd be easier if it was bold and easy to see. I don't know if you could keep it all on one line if you added, the bold print is gonna run into the. I suppose if people have questions, they just contact
suppose.
Judy about
Yeah.
this, and then what
That's
does that
fine.
mean,
Could we do both? Wasn't it like smaller under there, so we could have 8 bolded, and then we could have the small saying 8 available?
Yeah,
I'm just being picky, sorry. I'm just thinking somebody who's seen this the first time, that may be maybe a question. But you're right, they would just call Judy, and yeah, you're right.
Well, and depending on how long you're going to use this brochure, by the time they call Judy, it might be 6.
yeah.
Is there a number to call? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So even eliminating the numbers are good for me because they help me understand the scope of the fundraise. But from a consumer's perspective, the numbers don't mean anything to me. If I'm interested in sponsoring a dugout, I'm going to call Judy. I'm not going to be
that's
concerned about how many of those sponsorships are available.
Yeah. That's a good point. You're right. That's a good point.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, make any changes you want, because this is rough draft right now.
My only other comment is I'm also happy to approve it as it is. I don't have a dog in
I
the
was being
fight.
picky. I think it looks fine.
It's very nice.
Forget about my comment.
We did.
Thank you, Steve. As usual.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, so we have the motion to adopt the fundraising amounts and parameters for J.C. Park West project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
And do I do
Yeah, go ahead on
C2?
C.
Okay. So then we have a review of the memo from the village planner regarding the sign code impact on fundraising efforts. And basically, this has to do, our sign ordinance it needs to be slightly modified. We can add to it, basically, under the current sign code. We would call it interior site signs, and our sign code allows for that, but we'd have to put into the ordinance this section, right?
Yeah, so when Mike Stepney was working on updating the sign ordinance, he knew we were working on this project, so he took that into consideration when he drafted the sign ordinance.
Yeah.
It was just a FYI in the packet. I want to make sure the board
Yeah.
saw that.
Any questions anyone has?
Just going back to B, I know we had a motion and a second. Did we call the motion?
Yeah.
Was I there?
No, you said aye, but you weren't there.
Apparently, he's pushing.
Okay.
Yeah, we voted yes.
Sweet.
Your lips moved.
It's been a thing today. It has been a thing today.
Okay, so we'll go on to item 10, review of impact and connection fees, survey results.
So you may remember when we had the last joint meeting that Lisa and I expressed a little bit of concern that we didn't price ourselves out of the home building business by impact fees. And because again, we have a very extensive sewer connection fee. And that's Candy did this survey for us, and I'm not sure everyone did an accurate job in responding to it. I think it's hard sometimes when you're doing a survey during a budget time. People are busy and they get another survey and they go, "Oh, great, another survey to do," But I think what it tells us is that I would be concerned recommending that we do all these impact fees and still have our connection fee and almost have an $8,000 fee for a new house. I just don't think that's acceptable. And I will tell you that I just got the updated library impact fee from Laura yesterday, and rather than being $897, it's $857. So it's still pretty much in the ballpark. And I put together some recommendations, and maybe we can kind of go through that as we go through the rest of the agenda items. But I stand on my point I made whenever that was, that I just don't think we should implement the two new updated park fees until we figure out what to do with the sewer connection fee. I just don't think we can be charging people $8,000. It just,
No, I don't either.
no.
So I have two thoughts on
Yeah.
that. The first thought is relative to building workforce / affordable housing in the Village of Oregon. $2,000 on the impact fees isn't going to make the difference. The difference right now is $97,000 a lot. Nobody can build an affordable house on a $97,000 lot.
Yep.
Second thought is, we are investing a ton of money into an amazing school district. People want to live here. If I'm building a $400,000 house, I'm not going to care whether it costs me $8,000 in impact fees or $6,000 in impact fees. So I think on the one side of the spectrum, it's not going to help us attract more affordable housing. And on the other side of the spectrum, it's not going to discourage people from building in Oregon.
Well, I do want to tell you that the $2,500 has been for the sewer had been in place for a while. It got updated in it was first put in place in 1996 and then was updated in 2010. What Lisa and I wanted to do, working with Laura and the attorney in Matt's office, is to see if we should be continuing to collect it, or if we are, at what fee should we be collecting. I don't think it's going to be $2,500. But I will say, we do hear comments, Jeff, from many people about our fees being high, and that is one thing they complain about, is a sewer connection fee.
So if we did slow down developers, say that the high-end market wanted to go to a different community, that would effectively lower the cost of lots as developers tried to get rid of dirt. that would affect affordable housing. So in a way, it kind of plays in our favor,
But then
both ways.
But then it also has a negative impact on what we call our net new construction, which is really funds our budget. And that's what we're concerned about. We have to, if we can, stay at about a 40 or 50 new single-family home pace. That's a good pace for us. And I just want to make sure we don't do anything that would hurt that, I guess, have a negative impact. And again, I do want to look to see if the sewer connection fee, that loan is paid off, and we are sitting on more than a couple $1 million of cash in the sewer utilities. So should we continue to collect this? It's not an impact fee, it's a connection fee, which is different, but I still want to be looking at it.
When you say 40 to 50 new construction single-family homes a year, what dollar amount is the minimum that they need to be? Or does it not matter? Because of that?
Well, they're coming in for 50s. I mean, there are some homes in Bergamot that are more than that.
Right.
So about, 450 and up, I would say, 460.
So we need to have 40 to 50 in the $400+
Somewhere in there.
thousand dollar range.
Again, to have a good net new construction amount of $130,000 on an annual basis, somewhere in there.
That's what we have this year, right?
Yeah, pretty close.
So it gives us $130,000 of new tax money that otherwise we can't get from new taxes because we can't increase the levy.
Right.
So the challenge is, though, is that it's not about whether we grow, it's about how do we want to grow, and how much high-end residences do we want in our community, and how are we going to balance the table. And I think looking at it from Mike's perspective is 100% right. I agree with you 100%. There's a tax reality. It's interesting that this is coming up again, because what I'm talking about is the people, but what you're talking about is the tax levy, because that's what you do. You're the administrator. It's your responsibility to figure that out. And I just want to make sure that we're growing the right way, that we aren't known as like the Bergamot of Dane County, because we have a legacy of residents here that don't fit that model, and they never will, and we aren't currently making room for them.
Yeah. So every time Laura does, and Matt can go there, Matt's in the back there. When Laura does a impact fee needs assessment, she has to, it's required by law, Matt, right, to do or affordable housing workforce section in there, I think, right?
Yes.
I think you have to talk about it in there. Pretty sure.
The needs assessment for an impact fee has to address the impact on affordable housing. I'm not sure exactly how it's supposed to address that, but it's supposed
I think
to
what she
address
runs
it.
is a 30-year mortgage and how much it would cost somebody that's taken out a loan, and I don't remember the exact formula.
What does it add to the monthly
Exactly.
payment? And then you can consider that when deciding what to do. It doesn't tell you what you have to do as a policymaker. It's just another piece of information.
And Jeff, I'm not discounting what you're saying. I agree with you. It could be a problem with somebody trying to buy a house in the village that they can't afford it.
And I don't know that we always think about this as our accelerator, right? I mean, we can drive up the cost of land in the village of Oregon by making it so cheap to build here that everybody with money wants to come here and build. Or we can slow down the cost of development in Oregon by making land so inexpensive that developers, deep pockets clients don't want to come here and live, but yet we open up an entire market for the mid-range working class folks that are looking for homes to buy. I think to some extent policy dictates the development that happens inside of the village.
And I go back to your original point. I can't tell you that I can tell you scientifically that if our fee is $2,000 less, that more people are going to come here and build a house, or vice versa. I just know that $8,000 seems high to me for a single family permit. It really does. And again, what's really driving it is the sewer connection fee.
So we're going to borrow $8 to $10 million to build a library. If you shifted that $2,500 per new house into the library fund, I'd be happy with that. You know, these people that are building their houses here are going to benefit immediately from a brand new library, state-of-the-art library.
Well, right now we're going to be able to charge $857 for a library impact fee.
Is that like state statute?
Well, it's complicated. I mean, that's part one. That's library impact fee part one.
Yeah,
and then we'll be
part one.
talking
Good
about
point.
part
There's
two.
part two, that's
when
true,
we
when
build the new
library
library.
yeah, that's true, when it gets built. Yeah.
This is just an update of the existing fee based on our existing library. It's not yet addressing the new library.
And I noticed that they can't hear in the back of the room, because when library impact fees came up, Jennifer sat right up. I didn't mean you weren't, but a little extra perkiness back there.
So, back, sorry, the sewer impact fees, we're looking at that. When would we have an idea of whether or not that's gonna stay the same?
I think by the end of the year. Yeah, by the end of the year. But Laura, like I said, just sent me the library one. She has that done. Actually, Jennifer and Lisa and I are looking at that one. I want to have the new impact fee or the updated, the current fee in place by December 1st. Maybe possibly before they pull the parade of home building permits in December. I'd like to have the new fee in place for that. And then I think she'll get it done in November, December.
Yeah, we need to evaluate the current fee, how it was developed in the first place, what the methodology was, and what it makes sense to do today.
We'll be evaluating the water impact connection fee as well, because that seems to be
Yes.
higher
Yes.
than.
Yeah.
So ideally, I'm kind of assuming that the library impact fee is gonna go up. So if these other ones can come down, that would help offset that.
The current impact fee for the library?
Yeah.
It is going up.
Yeah, that would be an increase.
Yep. It's going up to 857 from 422.
Oh, okay, so this is already the.
I'm sorry, that's, yes.
This
Yeah,
is
that's the
already
new
the
number.
increase,
Yeah.
the new
Yeah.
number, all right,
896,
gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay,
so when I look at this, when I first saw the 8,000 and the others, it seems real high. And when we first did impact fees, we had a couple of reps from the Madison Builders Association, I think it was, that came here, and a couple of developers saying, you're gonna price Oregon right out of the market. Well, we did, the recession did, but it did everybody, but that didn't do it. And then with Jeff's comment, and I can see some merit to that too, that if I'm gonna build a $450,000 house, whether I pay $6,000 or $8,000 impact fees is not gonna make a lot of difference, especially coming to a community where, with what's been invested in schools, especially this new elementary school passes. Well, that's gonna be in Fitchburg, so these won't affect them.
Well,
well,
it'll decrease the crowding in the Oregon schools, and so that'll make their students'
Yeah.
experience better.
Yeah.
well, and Fitchburg is growing like crazy, that's why we're putting a new elementary school there,
Yeah.
and their impact fee is almost 7,000, so,
Yeah,
it's,
comparable, yeah.
I mean, we're not that far out of the range right now, but I still don't enjoy seeing us be the highest of all these communities.
Well, and truly, we haven't looked at the water impact fee for quite some time, so we should do that for sure. And like I said, we should be looking at the sewer connection fee, so this is a good time to be doing it. So I'm just asking just to delay the park fees at this point,
Sure.
and then we'll just do them all together.
Is there a fee, just out of curiosity, since we are responsible for managing affordable housing in the village by state statute, right?
No. What do you mean by responsible for managing affordable
So I'm
housing?
piggybacking off of something Mike just said to you about the responsibility that we have to make sure that we are
in the
creating
needs-
capacity for affordable housing in the village.
No.
No?
What we're required to do in our needs assessment
Yeah.
that's the legal basis for supporting an impact fee.
Yeah.
One of the things that report needs to address is the impact the fee will have on the cost and affordability of housing. And it's just so that you will have that data.
So we're just responsible to know that.
You're just responsible to consider that before you approve the fee, to
Got
know,
it.
this will be the impact on the cost of a home in the
I
village.
understand.
I think it probably it's supposed to make you think.
Make you think.
Is this a good thing we should be doing?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm a little cynical about why it's there, but why it's in the statute. It wasn't necessarily put there to
Yeah, I know.
advance the interests of building more affordable housing. I think
Right.
it was put there maybe for other reasons, because of the way things work. in Madison.
Matt, you're
Because
so
of who's in
subtle.
charge.
I'm a little skeptical,
so
I'm a little
subtle, man.
cynical, yeah.
So just
I'll be a
another
cynic with you.
quick question, the sewer impact fee, you're not expecting that to go to zero, you're just looking at reducing it?
And actually, it's a connection fee, it's not an impact fee, so it's a little different. But
Right,
I
sorry,
think I
connection.
wanted to see what it's gonna be.
I don't know yet.
It could be zero.
It could be, because, yeah.
It could be zero until, and Jeff Rawls gonna talk about this when we start talking about the sewer budget. We are starting to look at what are we gonna do with our current plant. Are we gonna expand our plant? Are we gonna, go towards Madison? And so, maybe we would wait to put a new fee in when we're gonna do that. Those are the things we have to look at.
So the challenge is, though, if you wait for a large capital improvement like that before you put the fee in, you miss the opportunity, right?
Right, so that's why we have to look at what do we do with the existing fee? What was the methodology used to calculate the existing fee? Is that methodology still valid?
Right.
Do we need to make any adjustments to it? How do we do that? When do we do that? Those are the kind of questions we're going to be asking. And since we haven't done it yet, I don't know.
Yeah, Laura could come back and say, you can continue to collect that fee. So then that comes back as a policy decision to the board. Okay, so she says that we have the legal right to continue to do that, and the water impact fee remains pretty close to where it is, so it'd come back to the board and you'd have to decide what you want to do with it.
There will be a very big capital cost in your future.
Yes.
Sewer.
Yes.
Question, the park fee in lieu of parkland dedication, they only pay that if they're not doing parks, right?
Right. And
So when I subtract, then
I know.
our
I
total
know.
impact fees go down to like 6,000.
Jenna, you're so right. You're so right.
I know.
But they still have to.
That's what Kane and I talked about. We thought to make it apples to apples comparison, we left it in there compared to other communities. But because we wanted to
You
show
can
what other
subtract
communities
across the board and-
we're charging it as well. But you're right, 99% of the time, those fees get paid as part of the pre-annexation agreement.
The developer dedicates land, but
Right.
it's still a cost. They buy the land and then they dedicate it. So it's still.
But it's not a fee that they're paying to us, so they're complaining less, maybe?
Well, no, it is.
They complain.
Well, I mean,
They pass on that cost to the developer,
It's-
to the contractors and the developers who buy the
Yeah.
lots.
It's
So we almost pulled it out of the survey, but we thought, well, to make it, we could show what everybody else is charging for it. But in reality, most of the time, it's not part of a building permit, it's part of a pre-annexation process.
yeah.
But here's an example, if Dorn ever does their apartment project, this actually would come into play. We'd actually charge them that.
Right.
Yeah.
We had talked
So-
about that when we made the
Exactly.
fee change.
Yeah.
And
So
what's
we-
always
very few
interesting
times.
to me is that when developers donate parkland in lieu, they're not donating an asset to the village, they're donating a liability, right? It goes from a taxable piece of property to an expense item because we have to go out there and mow it, we have to take care of it. If anything happens on it, it's our responsibility. I've never
You
understood
sound like
that.
me, Jeff, now.
Huh?
You sound like me, worrying about taxes.
It's all these parks. It's all these playing fields.
Sorry, I had a little-
Quality
sorry,
of
sorry.
life,
There
people.
was a little bit in there, wasn't there, about taxes, yeah.
That
I was
gets used
focused
to.
on the other stuff.
I know.
Yeah, you're right, there was a little bit in there. But it's just curious to me, it comes across as a donation, and everybody thinks donations are great, right? But if I donate a $100,000 debt to you,
Yep.
well, that's not a great donation.
But actually, most of the time,
Yeah, happy birthday.
we're the one that is saying, you're supposed to give us 10 acres, and then we end up negotiating. They rarely ever give us what they should because we don't want to have too much parkland to have to maintain. There is that point there you got to be careful about. So then we usually get enough park to have a nice park, but then enough money in the park fund and then take and to develop the park. That's sort of the theory of how we handle that.
Think soccer fields and softball fields.
Well, that's another one. I mean, how does,
Can we get impact fees for that?
No, well, but the impact fees, are for to buy the land.
Yeah.
But then the improvements, I mean, we just had a couple groups in here saying that might be willing to help, install those
Right.
public assets or whatever
Right.
in the parks.
Because I believe the Highlands Park was brought up when we were having that conversation.
Oh, is it another one?
Yes, thank you. And that they were dedicating the land, but we're still going to be doing the improvement to make those into the fields that were on the development plan. Okay, so that they're not going to turn those into playing fields.
They will.
We have to do
They'll
that.
probably grade the land.
Correct.
But we will now. One of the impact fees that's on the docket for consideration in the park arena is a park improvement fee. So every building permit for which every lot for which a building permit is issued will pay a fee once we adopt it that can help pay for improving the park.
Okay, so that was my question, was like, can it help
That
with
is-
the field and things?
That will be one of the fees that we'll be able to collect.
But they also
Prospectively.
paid $52,000 into the park fund as part of the pre-annexation agreement. So there's some money sitting in there to develop the park. We're actually going to use some of that money in theory to hire somebody to do a master plan so we know how to lay the park out the best way.
Any other comments on item 10?
I was just gonna say, I better hurry up and get my building permit.
It'll be a race on them tomorrow, probably. Okay, so we'll move on to item 11, discussion possible action by Park Board and Village Board regarding authorizing village attorney to finalize a park fee in lieu of parkland dedication and park improvement fee needs assessment. It's a note from the village administrator that he recommends delaying implementing the updated park fee in lieu of parkland dedication and park improvement fee until the village board has reviewed the current $2,500 sewer connection fee.
That's exactly what we just got done discussing.
Exactly, yeah, it's kind of a line.
Yeah, so, will you take action on that then?
It would be, the park board and the board would.
Yeah, I want the park board to do that motion
If
first.
they
right?
agree with that,
Yeah.
obviously.
So the motion would be to authorize village attorney to finalize a park fee in lieu of parkland dedication, park improvement fee needs assessment. Is that
Yeah,
what
so
you're-
Laura has the draft needs
Yeah.
assessment, that's how we came up with these initial numbers. So the park board and the village board have to authorize her to finish those needs that needs assessment.
Okay.
For both boards would have to do that.
Okay.
And just so I'm clear, Mike, your recommendation is that we hold off on that.
No, I'm recommending that we complete the needs assessment, so that's done. And then what we're gonna do is, then we're gonna proceed with having her look at the sewer connection fee and water impact fee
Oh.
after that. And then possibly, maybe by January 1st, we can implement the new park fees. That'd be my idea.
So the needs assessment, you're in favor of getting completed now. It's the
Get it done.
implementation that you want to delay.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Yep.
So I thought we had already a fee in lieu of parkland dedication. I thought that was ironed out, what the need was in the 101-page parks thing. I remember reading
You still have to
that.
do the needs assessment. And-
Okay.
And she's done a draft of it, and she needs to finalize it.
Okay, so that number in that packet is not final, or?
Well, as you can
I
see,
don't-
the one for the library changed a little bit as she finalized the library one. So, the number that's on this survey could change a little bit, it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, with maybe like $40 or $50, somewhere in that
Okay.
ballpark.
Oh, I see. All right. I was, because I think, the reason we did all that was to, have a certain level that we think is acceptable for parkland in the
Yep, she
village.
used
so-
that, that's
okay.
part of the needs assessment.
Okay,
And actually,
all right.
before, so to finish that, she actually needs to get a little more information from Mike Slavny to finish the needs assessment on the parks.
Okay, then I'm.
So I'm just asking right now is just to finish that, and we'll have
Mm-hmm.
that in place, and we can, most likely, we'll end up just doing one hearing then, probably for both the parks and the water impact fee, and just do it in one hearing. That'd be my goal.
Okay.
So we'll
That
need
makes
a
sense.
motion.
So
Yeah, so the park board needs to do the motion that would come to us.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay.
That's-
We're voting to delay it?
No, you're voting to direct me to have the village attorney finalize the
Okay.
needs assessment.
Got it.
The delay is the implementation.
Yes, yeah, so that is a delay, even though it's not in the wording of the motion.
You're not really actually voting on the fee tonight, because we have to
Right.
finish the needs assessment, do a public hearing, and prepare the ordinance, and there's a whole process you have to go through.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready for a vote? Yep. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So that Amanda's bringing that same motion up, so we need a second, please.
I'll second. Go ahead, Randy.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
This will all be clear by the end of the year, I promise you.
Well, it sure is not right now. Just wait till the park fee.
I know.
But anyhow, it's done, so we'll go to item 12.
Yeah, well, we're not
Too
done
soon.
yet completely.
No,
So now
we're done with 11, right?
We're done with 11, we're done with 11,
That's
that's
good, 'cause
correct.
I'm done with 11.
You are, Steve, you
We're
are.
not going back.
So now this is really, I did this because I wanted to deal with impact fees tonight, even though this has nothing to do with the park board.
Yeah.
So this would just, this would be authorizing the village attorney to finalize the needs assessment for updating the library, which actually she already did, so. I'm not even sure it's necessary to vote on that. I
Okay.
got it from her yesterday, so I think we can hold off on that.
So just
Yeah,
bypass 12?
we
Good.
don't need that, no.
Okay, so we'll go to 12B, authorize village attorney to review the current $2,500 sewer connection fee. So, need that as a motion, please? Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item C, authorize the village attorney to prepare a needs assessment for updating the water utility impact fee.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Good, thank you. That was the hard part of the meeting.
Well, we discussed it all, numbers. Easy.
Okay, so item 13, which is pages 23 and 24 in our budget booklet, which is the 2019 General Fund Parks Budget, discussion and possible action by the Park Board and Village Board of including General Fund Parks Budget and 2019 preliminary budget, scope of services for Lerner Park Master Plan, and thank you letter from Rotary Club and Packet. Village Administrator's recommendation is to fully fund the Lerner Park Master Plan in 2019, by reducing the 2019 contingency budget line by $4,500 and increasing the parks budget by the same amount. The Lerner Park Master Plan proposal will be forwarded to a future Park Board meeting for consideration after village staff has reviewed it with the Rotary Club members who brought the master plan idea to the village. So the Park Board needs to act on this first, right?
So the motion they're working on is to include the parks budget and the general fund in the budget.
Okay, so that's that's the Park Board, Rich.
Yep.
Okay, so are we talking about the $4,500 yet, or?
So, yeah, so that would basically, the only difference between this and what you saw at your meeting couple meetings ago is that I increased the other contractual services to $12,000 so we can do the master plan next year. Otherwise, the budget's the same, generally speaking. The parks budget and the general fund we're talking about right now.
Oh. So.
That's what's in the motion.
Yep.
So I'd look for a motion for that.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. So, any more questions or discussion? I guess I do have one question. So
Yeah, please.
the $12,000 was a not to exceed,
Yes.
but the 4,500 times 2 is only 9. We not.
So there was 7,500 in there already in the budget.
So the two aren't really related.
So there's $12,000 in the budget to pay for Lerner Park.
Okay.
That's my recommendation. That's what's in the budget right now. You know, what I'm telling the board in that motion is that I'm taking the money out of the contingency at this point and putting it in here. I'm lowering the contingency line item in the budget.
So the full 12,000 would still
I
be-
thought we should do the project in 1 year. That's my opinion.
All right, any more questions or discussion? Otherwise, we're going to take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. So Amanda, you bring that forward?
Yes, I'll make that motion to the village board also.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Randy. Any questions or discussion?
So I have a question. Mike, can you tell me what the total financial impact of this initiative is on the village? Is it just the $12,000?
$12,000. Yep, not to exceed. So when see that there's a footnote on page 24. That is when I was just guessing on what I thought was going to be the amount for the plan when I was preparing the budget with Lisa. And so I just got the proposal from Vanderwall. I think it was last week.
We had talked about splitting it up
We
amongst
did.
2 years, and it really made sense just to do it all in 2019.
Yeah, yeah. So disregard that note that's on the page. It's going to be $12,000 if you adopt this.
So it's not going to be phase one anymore. It's just going to be $12,000 and done.
Exactly.
Got it.
But before I bring this to the park board and the village board to approve the actual proposal from Vanderwall, Jeff and I are going to meet with Arlen and Larry Mark, a couple of the representatives from Rotary Club, and show them the proposal and say, do you feel this is going to, get where you want to get with this plan?
And can you help me quickly to understand what Rotary's financial investment in that park is?
Oh, they've
Well, we provide manpower and.
Well, I mean, from the get-go, they've, between the four horsemen there, what is it, Larry, Mar,
Al Miller's.
Al Miller. I mean, it's 4 individuals that are with Rotary that have really been committed to that for many, many years and organized the projects out there and the kids going out there. And, I mean, it's really, truly has been a commitment from Rotary and their members out there. But they'll be part of the master planning. I mean, the fact they'll be a very major part of that master planning project.
I'm not sure their financial contribution, but the hours of work would be in the hundreds.
Countless hours, yeah.
Yeah, many, many, many hours they put in out there, which includes I know at least taking 8th grade kids there for a full day of work also and supervising that, so that's a good day. Other questions or comments on that item? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Is that all we have to do on that one, Mike, or you want more
That-
on that bottom part?
No, you're fine.
Okay, so ready for 14?
Yep, page 68.
Okay, so item 14, pages 68 and 69, the 2019 Park Fund. This is discussion and action by the Park Board first and by us of including Park Fund in 2019 preliminary budget, and that's possibly hiring a consultant to develop master plan for Highlands of Netherwood Park. So the Park Board will do that first again, Rich, same
Yes,
process.
yes, please.
Okay. So looking for a motion?
What will that cost?
Is it that whole thing, or just,
It's the park fund on page 68 and 69.
it's just, this is just to hire the consultant, right?
Nope, this is to approve the park fund for 2019.
Park fund budget, yeah.
Yeah. So the consultant, we'll have to get a proposal from Vanderwall. They'll have to go back through the process in 19.
Oh, possibly, okay. Okay.
So that's
I'll
just
make
a
the
note.
motion to approve the park budget.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Or, I guess, I'm sorry, any more questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, any opposed?
Okay, thanks, Amanda?
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2019 parks budget as presented.
Thank you. Need a second, please?
Great.
Thank you, Randy. Questions or comments?
So, my only comment is, I'm really torn on this. I would almost take a step back away from developing that park into a park until I got a better understanding of what we could do with that $50,000 to bring up the quality at other parks, referencing our earlier conversation, and leave that park a mowed field, for a little
And
bit.
that's why I purposely put the word possible in there.
Yeah. So I think that'd be my comment. I'm probably going to vote against this only
But
because.
Jeff, you're not voting for that. You have to get a proposal from a consultant to do that. All you're doing is voting on the park fund.
Right, but if I vote the budget that you've got here, and that budget includes $50,000 to develop that playground, and I don't think that that's what we should be doing, is now the time for me to
I'm
voice
sorry,
that?
You should vote however you want, but I'm just telling you, you're not voting to do that tonight because basically I have to have a proposal in front of the park board and village board to hire someone to do a master plan of the park. And I put it in there as sort of a placeholder because it's ironic that was one of the parks that the soccer association was really trying to get to use. So I thought, well, maybe as a way to get that going, to maybe either give them 2 smaller fields or 1 large field, we'd start at least working on it and come up with a reasonable master plan. And that's the reason why it's in there. And so I didn't really respond to Amy's question very well because when she said there's nothing else planned, yeah, there is, we're thinking of possibly doing something in forward development. But we wouldn't do that without having it laid out, obviously, by a consultant.
And we've historically had that kind of as a placeholder in the budget, in the budget for every year I've been
Yep.
here, as far as just for playing field development. And I think we kind of keep that in there for those opportunities that come along. Not necessarily designated just for Highlands or anything else. It really is.
If you want to change the note to say where it said the last 4 or 5 years playing field development, I'm fine with that too.
Well, so here's a
That
question,
makes it
because
work.
this kind of goes back to what I was saying about the police department budget, and maybe some of this has got to do with municipal budget versus for-profit budget, which is where my experience is. But I would not allow a budget to be $50,000 off the mark. I wouldn't be cushioning my budget with $50,000 that I might spend, even though I don't think I'm gonna. And I wouldn't be under budgeting, I would be trying to hit that mark. And so when I look at this budget and I think about what Jeff just said, and truthfully, this is another one of those examples where the budget is $137,000 for this year, but the projected actual is 32, which means we're gonna potentially come in $100,000 under budget in this category. In my business brain, I would never let that happen. But is there an argument for that in
Yes,
municipal budgeting?
Because there's $52,000 coming in from forward development. That's why you're seeing that good bottom line this year. There's revenue coming into the park fund. And this $50,000 has been in the park fund as a placeholder from the park board for the last 5 or 6 years. And yeah, I guess I'm more comfortable, and maybe Lisa can weigh in here, but she sits way
She
in the
couldn't be
back
sitting
there.
any further
I know.
back.
I'm going to try to drag her in this conversation.
I can help her out.
But so take away that 52,000,
Yeah.
and let's just talk about projected actual to current budget for 2018. The projected actual, take away the 52,000 is, if you add that back into the minus 32, you get,
So basically, you got $100,000.
Positive
You got
17,
52
right?
coming in, and you haven't spent the 50 that was in the 2018.
Yeah.
It's $100,000.
right.
Yep.
And that's what I'm suggesting is that if we continue to budget that way, I would not do that in a business
Yep.
environment.
And so in municipal government, if you think you have a chance you're going to do that in a fund, you should show that so you don't have to do what's called a budget amendment. It raises to me more of a question of not having the money in there. I mean, we could take it out of there, but then we're going to have to come back to the Park Board and Village Board to ask you to amend the budget to do something next year.
So somehow, some way, the budget balances at the end of the year, because if it doesn't, you have to do a budget amendment.
Well,
So help me understand this, because I'm on the cusp of something I've been working on for 5 years in my brain.
So this-
Say that you bring in the park budget 100,000 under, does that money move over to another category to balance it?
No, this money basically stays in this fund. So there's a fund balance in this fund, and if you don't use it, the money just goes back into that fund.
So the balance continues to grow?
Yep.
But the balance, the expenditure in that category can only be used for restricted things?
Yes, only new projects yep, exactly, yep. And so I've always been more comfortable, I'm more comfortable if we actually said we were gonna take this money and do a project, but we've had this money in the budget for the last 4 or 5 years. It just said playing field development. I thought, well, I was hearing obviously we heard the concerns about soccer. That's why I put it in here for next year, like, well, at least let's get going and at least do some planning out there. So, but if you feel more comfortable just labeling it playing field development, I'm fine with that too. But I think we should have some money in there to do something possibly next year with a consultant. Plus, I'll be honest with you, we're gonna have a staff planner here, and hopefully that planner will have some more time to do some playing field development as well, and they may need some consulting work to help them do that.
Yeah, I think having it there, Jeff, go ahead, Amanda. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I totally understand your point on that. And if it was $500,000, I'd be going, yeah, that, maybe not, but $50,000 to me seems a reasonable amount, and we are going to probably be using PET money. I don't think it's going to just roll over. I think we're gonna end up using it probably this year because of the needs of the teams, but I mean, I hear your concerns, and if it was a lot more, I'd be thinking the same way, but I think 50,000 is reasonable for what we're looking at doing, the growth we're gonna experience, and what's needed in our parks. That was all.
And if we don't do that, and then we decide, yeah, now is the time to do something, we need $50,000, where's it gonna come from? Then you gotta try to find it, and that's not easy.
Well, I mean, if you
$50,000
don't-
once you get going, so if it's there, even if we don't use it this year, it carries over, we've got the next year. Because we know we're gonna work on playing fields sometime real soon.
So, but ultimately, where the rubber meets the road is the taxpayer winds up paying a little bit more than necessary for all the expenses in a given year because they're contributing to a fund that's going to be used in a future date when.
These are developer fees. These are all developer fees in this fund.
So I was fast forwarding in my brain. When you bring forward a balanced budget and that gets approved by us, that turns into a levy per household. So expenditures ultimately roll out to the taxpayer. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
No, I'm saying, but these don't. These are paid by developer. This goes back to Jenna's question about the pay in lieu of, versus giving us parkland. Developers give us this money, but we can only use this money for new projects. So this is not tax dollars in here.
So this isn't so when I think about the budget, historically to this point, I've been thinking about it as subcategories of the total budget, meaning that expenses in each subcategory would roll down to the total budget expenses for the Village of Oregon. Is that not correct?
You have the general fund, and you've got all these special funds that we're going to go through tonight.
So these are outside of the
Yep,
taxpayers.
including water and sewer.
Got it.
Well, there's taxes in some of those funds, but there are no taxes in the park fund. These are strictly developer fees.
Got it.
And again, it was funny. This is another survey that came through my administrator email service the other day. Somebody was asking what you could use these for, and it was very clear that people were being told, other administrators, like, you cannot use these for maintenance. You can't, like, repair a roof on a pavilion or something. It just has to be for new capital projects, so.
So new projects on an existing parks can fall under that, right? Correct?
Well, we could use this to build playing fields, someplace.
I guess what I'm getting at is I would support changing it to just saying playing fields.
Playing field development.
Thinking, instead of specifying Highlands of Netherwood Park. And the reason why I say that is because thinking about the previous conversation, if the soccer club and the softball club do contact Jeff and we want to get, an estimate for making Bethel Green Acres Park more, getting those fields in there, this might fall under that. Could we have the flexibility in the future
Yes.
to use this for that? Not saying we're going to specify this now, but
We could use it for improvements.
yeah, an
The park
improvement to
fund
that
is, the
park.
park fund can be used for improvements
You
made
have
to.
to be careful how you use it.
Well,
Yeah.
no doubt.
No, I'm
just
not saying
like,
that to you, I'm just saying.
that was an example,
Yeah.
tying back to our previous conversation,
Yeah,
but anything really
Let
to
me-
not necessarily do this new park, but an existing park so that we can potentially work with these groups that were here
Mm-hmm.
before us tonight in 2019 with some of these funds. Again, potentially, we have to see as we have these conversations, but.
Yep. I'm not debating this with you. I think that'd be a good question to ask Laura, because typically we spent these fees on is you have a subdivision that gets annexed into the village. You end up theoretically using the money you've collected from that developer, from those homeowners that are buying those lots to develop that park in that subdivision. I mean, that's what you typically use the money for.
Typically, but we don't have to.
So it would seem,
Potentially.
if I were a developer and I got assessed the park fees, and then you didn't use it for the park,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, wouldn't that be
I mean, we use this money to help put the playground, it would
Right.
be a playground at
Right.
some point in there.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise you have to borrow money.
Yeah.
You have to levy for it.
but I think
And there
if I
isn't
s-
that much money, I think there's
if I
maybe.
saw this in the budget the way it is, I would think it would be for Netherwood Park,
For Highlands and
or
other.
Highland Netherwood. But you're saying we don't have, it doesn't have to be that.
I'm just saying the village was not always spending the park fund the correct way, but we've been doing that now for a long time because we had a park board member that corrected us. This is years ago, and so we used to spend it, like, I'm using an example, to repair a roof. That's what I'm saying. To do upgrades at Bethel Green Acre Park and at Kern Park, I'd have to make sure we could do that.
I'd be interested in the answer to that.
Yeah, I'll find that out. Yep.
And I'm under the understanding if it's a new improvement, we're okay. If it's coming in to repaint a dugout, we're not.
I would need to check on that. We haven't done that in the past.
Yeah.
I'll find it out.
Thank you.
But the word possible in there gives
did that
us
on
that
purpose.
flexibility is what I thought. So I'm okay with leaving it, but if people really
It
felt
doesn't
the
matter to me.
need
If
to
you wanna
change
change
it,
it,
I'd be open to that. So, I mean, if you have a suggestion, I can amend my motion if you whatever. I could go either way, but I think the way it is gives us some flexibility and we could
I
leave
think
it.
it does, too.
So this motion is at the park board for approval.
I thought we
I thought we
approved it
approved
already.
it too. Did it?
So now it's,
Oh,
You mean
I don't
On
know.
the
For
park,
fund?
the
Yep.
park fund, yes.
Yep.
The park
Fund
fund.
2019.
Aren't we talking about playing fields?
No,
No,
park fund.
no.
We're on item 14.
So we're skipping ahead, Steve.
Okay. So
I think the motion.
this is at the village board to vote on, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
Yep, Peterson and Glitch for that.
Yep.
Okay. So further questions or discussion here on this motion for the 2019 park fund?
so this is the,
Village. You want to
This
leave the
budget, this
footnote as
fund.
it is, or you want to change it? It doesn't matter to me at all.
Yeah, I don't care.
okay.
Can be used either way.
I
What
don't care.
You
you
mean the
want to use
word
it for.
possibly?
That's 7,500 phase one. Oh, that's Lerner. Possibly.
Yeah.
Like you said, possibly is possible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Use a lot of room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would like to say, the message that I would send is, I'd be more interested in focusing on our current parks than I would be in building new parks. Because I think we have enough issues in our,
Yep.
in our current park systems that need to be addressed before we start adding infrastructure that needs to be maintained in a new park.
And I'll get an answer about whether or not you could use, like, if we could use park funds to do some work at Rustic Vineyard or something like that, or, yeah, I'll check on that.
Yeah, and could you, not to answer this tonight, Jeff, but could you look at whether it'd be feasible from a water engineering perspective to elevate the playing fields at Kaiser, the soccer fields that run along Oak Street, and if it would be feasible, could we somehow incent the developers that are digging basements out on Netherwood to use that as fill over on Oak Street? Again, not for discussion tonight, but
Lots of fill.
lots of basements.
Lots of fill, lots of basements, yes.
Yeah.
But we can come up with that.
Okay, so back to motion for including the park fund and 2019 preliminary budget. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 15, pages 80, 81, and 81A, 2019 playing fields development. Discussion of possible action by Park Board and Village Board of including playing fields in 2019 preliminary budget and paying for former DiMaggio property, DiMaggio Park, and developing J.C. Park West.
Okay, so they look for a motion to approve the 2019 playing fields development.
I'll make that motion.
I can't even find
Oh.
the page.
I'll second.
Okay,
The main,
All right, so then-
the main thing here is the J.C. Park West, and we're budgeting for that.
So it's at the Park Board level right now?
Yes, yep.
I'll hold my,
Okay.
and it's, so the paying for the former DiMaggio property, did you want to just clarify that? Sure.
So this, I had, Lisa did this on 81A, this breakdown of what funds have paid what, and what those funds would pay in the future for the purchase of the DiMaggio property, which became DiMaggio Park, which is along Baffish Creek. And so this again is showing that the sewer utility provided some funding for that, the park fund, and the general fund has paid the most of it, of the purchase. And we're doing this over time.
And we're looking at doing what with the property?
It is a park, DiMaggio Park.
It's currently the
And
park.
actually,
Okay.
it goes
But
back to the discussion about Lerner, that, my idea is to show the Lerner Park
that's
Master
right.
Plan. It'll be the connecting trail, the bike trail, walking trail along Baffish Creek past the DiMaggio Park at some point.
If it's not flooded.
It will flood at
It will be
times.
flooded, yeah.
It probably will, yeah. But at least the creek, Baffish Creek does actually go down eventually versus the bike trail.
That's not a kettle.
Is that
Not a kettle,
That's
yeah,
what we
yeah.
were saying.
And that line item is really just cleaning up something that happened. When did we purchase DiMaggio Park? 10 years ago?
It's not been that long.
it's been within
Not that-
five.
Five.
Yeah, five, yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, you can see when we first, 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so any more questions or discussions on that? Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay. So I'll make the same motion at the village board level.
Second.
Thank you.
So my comment is probably predictable at this point, but, I noticed that we're budgeting the full expense, I think, of both Phase 1 and Phase 2 in next year's budget at $1.8 million with revenue of $500,000 roughly, $492,000. So $1.3 million from the village, $492,000 from private fundraising.
$1 million from so actually, Jeff, it's phase 1 and 3.
Phase 1 and 3, so $1.3 million. So that gets us to it.
The village is putting in $1 million. The rest of it will have to come from private fundraising.
Well, so the total,
If we don't hit that mark, then maybe we don't end up doing phase 3, we end up doing phase 1.
so the total revenue, the total capital improvements in the budget is $1.8 million.
Yep,
I thought our in was $1 million.
it is.
So how does the total capital improvement come to 1.8?
Because there's a feeling that, so they're gonna, so we put 500,000 in.
Yep,
They raised 500,000, we
Yep.
put, so we're at 1.5. The thought is that the pickleball group is going to raise enough money for their pickleball court, which would be another $300,000.
And that was in the paper.
Yeah.
I did double check it. It was in the paper that they are talking about J.C. West.
thanks for the
So I
correction.
just want to make sure the clarification, because if anybody's watching, I don't want them to think we're. don't
Well,
have
I
our
appreciate the
information.
clarification because clearly I didn't read it right, so thank you.
if it doesn't happen and we're back to the original, then we will just do phase one next year.
So as I'm following the numbers down, we're potentially passing a budget that's negative $492,000. It's just hard for me to get my head around that.
But we have to, but again, we have to show something what we're doing. We're trying to do a budget for 19. If we don't show, I mean, this is what I think we're gonna do. If we don't, we would come back, you would see an amended budget for J.C. Park West. I mean, if the board's more comfortable in showing 1.5, that's fine. That would be fine with me if you want to do that, but we're pretty confident the pickleball is gonna raise the money.
So if pickleball raises 300,000, does that roll up to the $500,000 total that we're looking for from the community before we'll invest $1 million?
It wouldn't be enough to do phase one. Because that
Does that kick in the village's contribution of $1 million? If pickleball raises 300 and baseball raises 200?
Well, I think our feeling is that we're gonna raise more than $500,000.
So
Excluding the pickleball.
excluding the pickleball.
Sorry, yeah.
So if I approve this budget tonight, which again,
Jeff,
I,
maybe I can clear up a little.
Thank you,
So
Lisa.
we're budgeting for a $492,000 deficit.
yeah,
But that's because we borrowed $500,000 this year, which will roll into the fund balance, which will offset that negative fund balance in 2019. Because we borrowed the $500 this year and we didn't spend it, so it rolls into the fund balance. So next year, we're not going to budget for the $500,000 again because we already borrowed it. So that's why you see the negative, because we already borrowed $500,000 this year.
So the
for
other
the
thing we could
project.
do, I know what Jeff's concern is, the other thing we could do is we could show,
thank you, Lisa. That's helpful.
we could show us borrowing another $500,000 in 19, and that's what we could show in the budget, and then.
We have it in there.
No, I'm saying,
Oh.
don't show the 1.8, and then but then we'd have to come back, and we'd have to then explain to the board why we're amending the budget in the middle of the year.
But technically speaking, if we've already got 500,000 budgeted towards the project, we would only be borrowing 500,000 more,
Correct.
which would be accurately reflected in the budget. Whereas currently, right now, we're reflecting that we would be spending $1 million, but technically we wouldn't be spending $1 million out of the 2019 budget. We'd be spending $1 million total, 500,000 coming out of 2018, 500,000 coming out of 2019, right?
And the fundraising money.
And the fundraising money. But if you put that 500,000 back in the budget, now the budget's balanced. It's a shade over zero. And to me, it reads better. But in terms of village administration, I trust you guys to be the experts. I'm just simply pointing out something that doesn't square in my mind. Your explanation's completely acceptable to me.
Okay.
I get it. It's just the way that the math works, and this isn't the first time that me and an accountant sat down and he tried to explain to me why the numbers were the way they were, and I never understood it, and that's okay. I don't have to. I just have to raise the question.
No. I mean, and we're hoping that we hit all the fundraising numbers. Everyone here in this room has done fundraising, and we'll be coming back and updating the park board and the village board as we get sponsorships, and we'll see how this whole project comes together. But at this point, we're hoping that we do a good job fundraising.
And we think we'll hit that $500,000 on the public portion within the next year in 2019. We're anticipating hitting that.
We hope.
Well, Mike said he thinks he's going to hit 8.
Because, yeah, well, I mean, and if we hit it next year, it's fine that we put the next $500,000 borrowing
But
in this budget. But-
The borrowing, that's a whole separate motion by the board. This is just budgeting. This is not saying you have to do this. No. But again, if we don't do it this way, then we have to keep coming back to the board saying, well, now we have to amend this because we're doing, and we do that anyways enough times. So this is, I hate.
This is just stuff that we
This is our-
anticipate, that's all.
Exactly. This is our best estimate.
Okay.
I almost use the word guess, which Lisa liked when I use that.
But don't you have to
makes
true it
sense.
up at the end of the year? Is this exempt from that? I mean, if you budget 1.8 million in spending and you spend 200,000 and you've got a $1.6 million gap, don't you have to true that up for the auditors?
This is a special fund, and
Right.
it works different. The general fund, yes.
Yep.
You need to true that all up, but this is a special fund, which you don't have to do that with. Because they look at the fund balance in the special funds, so they can see that we have a positive fund balance at the end of 18. So we know in future years, in 2019, we're gonna spend some of that fund balance.
And there's some finance directors and auditors who would say, even though it's a special fund, let's say we don't show the 1.8 million, we don't show anything because we don't know what we're gonna fundraise, so we just leave this as we zero it out for 19, right? And then we come in the end of August, we say, yep, we've got the money now, and a lot of finance directors that work would say, well, you're gonna have to do a budget amendment in this special fund, but not everyone believes you need to do that because it's in the special fund, not in the general fund. So this is just our best, as Amanda said, our best anticipation of what we think is gonna happen. And if we end up having 1.6 million, we'll have to figure out what to do with that.
You know, I just have to mention that I'm a little bit discouraged because going into the capital improvement plan that we had, knowing how expensive these buildings were going to be, I was really concerned that we maximized the dollars that we had to spend on the infrastructure that was going to carry the village forward for the next 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
We came through with a vote for the library, and I don't want to rehash it, but it was underneath what the library was asking. I felt that we should have given what the library was asking to help ease the fundraising on that part, because I felt, and I still feel, that building the right library today for the next 80 years is exactly what we need to do. And I've said that several times, and it's not new to anybody here. But now all of a sudden, when I hear about, borrowing $1.8 million, the first thought that I have in my mind.
Nope, we're not borrowing that, we're borrowing $1 million.
Okay. I apologize. Thank you for correcting me. But the first thought that I have in my mind is, what about the library? What about Village Hall? This is that time in history, and I've said it endlessly. And then my second thought is, well, balance your needs in the village. But these are the kinds of things that it's hard for me to get my head around because the budget's that thick, and I can't necessarily connect all the dots and make sure that we're doing the right thing for the village from my perspective. And so this piecemeal voting on things, it kind of becomes death by 1,000 cuts for me.
Well, and again, this goes back to when the organizations were here, and I said, how do you balance? Everybody wants something, and it comes down to a difficult decision for the board, how much you want to adjust taxes or increase taxes. And I hope that given you the CIP like in September, but Lisa and Jeff and I have really struggled with trying to allocate in the 5-year plan all these big projects. One of the issues is that we just finished Perry Parkway, which is $1.2 million. So in the span of like 5 or 6 years, we will do 4 major road projects in the village. Probably never done that in the history of the village. Well, actually, you go back even another year, we did Jefferson Street. So you go Jefferson Street, Perry Parkway, both county projects, and Park Street. You're doing that within the 6 or 7 year period. That's raising your debt level, and those are projects we need to do, and so that's the problem with trying to balance all this up. And then people are saying we need to do parks and we need to do buildings. It gets to be a real push after a while in the CIP. And again, like I said, you'll see that. Hopefully, we can bring that forward in a couple board meetings. But yeah, it's a short struggle that we have all the time trying to figure out how to balance this. And then also not to go over the $10 million mark. Mm-hmm. The other thing that comes into play is we want to do a development of the business park on the other side of Highway 14, and there's money we have to borrow for that as well. So we're trying to do a lot of things within a 5 or 6 year period.
And my concern is that if we aren't focused, we'll do a lot of things poorly. That's my concern. Mm-hmm. And I would rather do a few things exceptionally, my opinion. I'd rather drive on some rougher roads and have a brand new 35,000 square foot library that I know my grandkids are going to go to and worry about the roads in a couple of years than try to make sure that everything that needs to get done gets done, but we don't do any of it right. Mm-hmm. And I've seen us not do things right. The current library wasn't done right, arguably. Now, I wasn't here at the time, and I don't want to go through, maybe I even shouldn't have brought it up.
Jeff, we had so many complaints about Jefferson Street. I mean, that road was in horrible shape, and so how do you keep telling people that's not our problem? It's a county project, and that was the problem. And we got these 2 other county projects. We're actually pushing them out probably a lot further than anybody wants. But again, you're going to see the CIP. You can't tell us to move things around, we'll be happy to obviously do that, but again, there's a couple of years that we're trying to make sure the borrowing does not go over a certain amount, which could affect interest rates and things like that, so.
I have to say, Jeff, it bothers me to a degree you say we weren't focused, because I think when we voted, we were focused. I mean, that's our obligation as elected people, that we vote on an issue to be focused on it and try to do the right thing. Do we always do the right thing? No, because things change sometimes, and sometimes you don't make the right decision. But what the right decision is, we don't always agree. You don't agree on the library. But enough people did that we moved forward at $6 million.
Yeah, I appreciate you clarifying.
So that's done.
I wasn't trying to say that we're not focused at all, and
Well,
if that's what
that's
you
what I
heard,
heard
I
you say.
apologize.
Yeah, that's what I heard you
What I
say.
said is I would want us to be focused.
Yeah.
Not that we're not.
Yeah.
And it's,
I
but it's
think-
hard for me to stay focused.
Yeah, and I think we are focused. Now, by 9 o'clock, we might not be, but we'll see if we get there.
Yeah, we may
Although
end up
this
on
is,
Wednesday night.
this is the time to have these discussions.
Yeah.
That's why we schedule all these longer board meetings, so
Yeah.
that you can have your say, and I do take that into consideration. I mean, I really care about what other people think, and sometimes we see things that other people don't, and this is a great opportunity to be part of the process.
Except that the board now wants to change its mind and not be borrowing the $1 million. We've been working on this for a year and a half, figuring that was the board's decision to do J.C. Park West.
I think that is the board's.
Yeah,
I think that is the board's decision.
It
I think
is.
there's a small
Yeah.
dissent on the board.
Yeah.
But I think a few people here are talking a lot, and so that you're getting that impression. I'm still totally focused on going for a JC West. If we need to, let's have a vote. I'm tired of talking about this and having one person dominate this conversation. So let's go.
Okay, so we have item 15. And the motion is second about playing fields, the 2019 preliminary budget. Any other discussion or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So we'll turn the page. And that takes us to adjournment of the park board.
Okay.
Made Emmy smile. She must have homework to do when she goes home.
All right, good. Look for a motion to adjourn the park board.
I'll make that motion.
Second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Again, thanks, park
Yep,
board. We
thank you.
appreciate it. And again, Emmy, thanks for your willingness to serve on the park board. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It was interesting time.
Yeah. You learned a lot, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So does the board want to keep going ahead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you think? Yeah, we'll keep going.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go to item 17, continuing overview of 2019 budget and questions, issues from the board members. Item A, questions from October 8th budget meeting. One was status of installing Wolf Street sidewalk.
Yep. So Jeff, you
Well, you're right. I think right now in our CIP, we actually pushed that out a little bit, mostly because of the fact that there will come a day in the near future where we will be with the county doing a joint project through that area, and that whole area will involve sidewalk, storm sewer, and everything like that. And that'll probably also be in about the same time frame when Autumn Ridge Phase 2 or Phase 3 goes in. So that's where when we were looking at, okay, where are we going to put this and everything, that's kind of where we have it right now. I think it's 2022.
I don't remember top of my head.
I can pull it up, but it's still on our books. It's still on things getting done. I mean, we are just finishing the South Perry sidewalk right now. If you drive up there, it's actually almost near. Well, the concrete's done. We just have the fix on pavement up there,
Yeah.
or the
there today.
fill in there. Yeah, it's looking really nice.
Thank you, Jeff, for coordinating that with the town, because that couldn't have been easy. So thank you
Actually,
for coordinating schedules.
You're welcome.
with
It was
town.
coordinated with the town, and also we had a
Oh, right.
railroad crossing.
Yeah.
And everything. But this is a great example of just being patient and kind of let things fall into place. As a result, I think we've been able to do that one for, I'll have to add it all up, but considerably cheaper than we initially thought, because of using fill from Jefferson Crossing, and we got a very good bid on a concrete. We just had to kind of wait for it and everything. So,
Okay.
yep.
Other questions on Wolf Street? Anybody? Okay, we'll go to item 2, status of road projects with Dane County, North Main Street in 2021, and Janesville Street in 2022, Park Street reconstruction in 2020.
I think Jerry was asking about, I couldn't remember off the top of my head, so I just thought I'd list them on the
Okay.
agenda. So.
Anything else on that one?
No.
That's pretty much it, right? And then item 3, status of installing traffic signals at the Janesville Street and Perry Parkway intersection.
And I think Amanda brought that up at the last
Yeah.
meeting. So.
Yeah, I didn't know if,
Yeah.
what the, with the county, do they know it's completed, or are they gonna do something?
Yeah, we will continue to look at this. I think what people have to remember is we haven't increased traffic in that area. We've just dispersed it in different areas. So there's more traffic probably going through that intersection than used to. But now there's less traffic up at the Oak Street intersection. We'll continue to look at it. It is county roads, so how that all fits together. What I see is possibly when we do Janesville Street, we'll be looking at that and possibly incorporating that into a project, if that's proven that it's needed at that time.
Well, how will we know if it's needed unless we do a study now? I
Well,
mean,
right now, I mean, I'm not familiar with the number of, typically what trigger signals, unfortunately, are accidents. And, I'm not familiar, with a large number of accidents. What I kind of did commit, I think, a few weeks ago is to talk to Chief and just have them pull up an accident history on that. But actually, I'm familiar with one that involved my daughter, but that's not, now that I'm thinking about it. But she wasn't driving. Again, your student wasn't, yes. So, that's kind of where we start with those. And we really want to give time, once something like this opens up, we want to give it time to kind of flesh things out and see how things really operate. That's how all projects are.
sure. And, just for the record, I'm not so concerned, I don't think, about the traffic accidents, as far as car versus car. It's more car versus pedestrian.
Exactly.
Because I keep hearing about near misses with cars and school kids.
Yeah.
And I'm really paranoid that some person's child is going to be injured or killed because we didn't do something in time.
Right.
So I see that as something we need to start the process as soon as possible to get it looked at. That's what I want.
Well,
I want
and
someone,
last year we
you know.
made the commitment, and we had the flashing beacons installed there because of some concerns that we had from the
Sure.
area through there. So, and we actually partnered with Dane County with that, and they partnered with us on that and shared costs.
So, and in light of that, I would think that things have gotten better, although I'm still hearing that people aren't seeing it, or they're not paying attention, and there's still issues. So I don't know if maybe the police can kind of station a squad car there when school kids come through and just observe driver behavior with those crossing
Yeah,
signals.
we can ask them to
I'll make it a note of that.
to talk to Chief about that and have them. Sometimes that's all it is. It's just a little more of a presence to
Yeah,
make
and
people
if
aware.
that would solve it, great.
Yep.
They were there this morning.
Were they?
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that.
Can we put any of those things in the middle of the road, like those pedestrian signs?
Those have historically been purchased by the Safe Goods Coalition, and if they wanted to purchase one and put it out there, once they're out there, we usually end up repairing them and stuff, and that's not a big deal. We're happy to do that. But if they want to do that, I know we just had one put in over on Jefferson Street this year, so.
Is that, Jeff, is that the thing that goes in the middle of the street?
Yeah, it's just on a springy pad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much do those cost?
$300 or $400.
I think that would be money well spent.
Yeah, why not
I
do
think
one?
so too.
You want one?
Yeah.
We will do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would, it wouldn't hurt.
Sure. Right. I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Jeff, you had mentioned that we would potentially consider lights at the Janesville Street and Perry Parkway intersection when we redid Janesville Street. Can you remind me when that's going to be?
That
Or when we're
would be
thinking about it?
2022.
2022. That's where
Oh,
we have
right in
it. Yeah,
there.
that's where we have it in the CIP right now. And I will tell you that one of the reasons we have not been discussing this openly yet with Dane County is those dates have floated around quite a bit as like Mike was saying, as we've kind of been having to shift priority. Everything becomes a priority, and what we're also just to let you know, one of the things that we think of in this is what's going on with the DOT and Highway 14. As well as what we're doing on Park Street, how the hotel is coming along and when that's coming online. All of these things kind of go into play because we don't want to create gridlock nightmare by putting, when DOT is trying to divert onto 14 ramps, and all of a sudden we have a project going right through there as well, it could be, chaos. And so that's kind of what we're trying to balance, semi-perfectly.
You might want to put on your radar Park Street in Janesville right away, because once the hotel opens, it's going to aggravate an already difficult
Yeah,
in
the-
and out situation
The
there.
Park Street Janesville intersection is for 2019, and then Park Street is for 2020.
Well, in terms of lights,
Mm-hmm.
not
Park
to be
Street
relevant.
Janesville intersection lights are for 2019.
Other questions on these items? Okay, so we'll go to item 17B, review of Finance Director's 2018 accomplishments and 2019 goals. Any highlights you want to talk about, Lisa?
Not really.
Okay.
Keep me out of
I'm
trouble.
trying to keep the meeting moving along.
Well,
Unless somebody has questions.
yeah.
I appreciate you putting that together.
Yeah, I was going to say, Lisa, that you quietly do a really good job, and we appreciate it. So we understand your accomplishments and stuff, and it's not necessary to tell us about them because we recognize that already.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so item C, state highway aids increasing in 2019 to $446,913 preliminary number.
I want to make sure the board saw that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike.
We're lucky that it's going up. As I mentioned at the last meeting, a number of communities are seeing drastic decreases.
Yeah.
So we're on the good side this time.
Yeah. Item 18, Public Works General Fund. Item A, Village Hall, pages 8 and 9, Post Office lease ends in June 2020. And remove funding for maintenance for a youth center building.
And that was only, that was $1,000.
Yeah.
So it isn't, but I
Yeah.
thought since we're moving into a new building, we wouldn't be maintaining
Yeah.
next year, so.
And we will look at all these items as a group and then consider them as a group with a motion on item M. So item B, inspections, pages 14 and 15. Safe Belt serves the village as our building inspector, and they get 75%, we get 25%. Split of the fees is in effect. Any questions here?
I have one. Is that new for us? Because we used to have our own.
We probably,
Or
this is
have we
a,
always contracted?
no, we had,
2.5 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years,
Okay.
3 years ago, we went to a service.
3.5 years ago.
We actually, when I got here, Randy, we had a service, and then we went to a full-time person, and now we're back to using a service. Yep.
Yeah.
We did renegotiate from a 90-10 to a 75-25 split
Yeah.
a year ago.
Yeah, good.
So, but these numbers reflect 75%
Yep.
of what, okay,
We get 25 back.
gotcha.
Anything else on that item? Okay, item C, Public Works Administration, including Public Works Department 2018 accomplishments, 2019 goals, which are included in the packet, pages 15 and 16, and a percentage of Jeff's salary is allocated to TIF 4, TIF 5, and Southeast Business Park funds. Any questions or comments here?
On the goals and objectives, one of the things I'm amazed with every year when I start going through and what I do to prepare the goals and objectives and accomplishments is kind of look back over my email strings and everything like that. And we're running 100 miles an hour on a daily basis, and it is amazing. I have an incredible staff. They respond to a lot of things, and they respond to a lot of requests, both from me, from Gary, and from our residents. And they sometimes are going in one direction and all of a sudden going 180 degrees in the other direction. They don't complain about it, and I'm very proud of who we have as a staff. And I'm also very proud of all the things that we do accomplish. Try to focus on that, and maybe not all the things that we want to still accomplish.
Yeah.
So.
Again, Jeff, I'd like to speak for the board that we appreciate the work that you do. There's a lot that goes on, and a lot of
Yeah.
times it's make out your list, get none of it done, and run and duck. But you still stay at stuff, and we
We're
appreciate
spread
it.
thin on some days, yes,
Yeah.
but we're not complaining about it, and we do appreciate, the board has always been extremely supportive of us with equipment, with facilities, with our staff, and, I'm thrilled, by the fact that we can go through this process, and it's, talking to other people out there, other public works directors, it's not always that easy for other ones. And
Yeah.
I appreciate the trust and the confidence you give in all of us.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jeff. Item D, engineering, page 16.
Pay for our consulting engineer.
Yeah, questions or comments? Item E, Public Works Machinery Repair, page 17. Questions or comments? Item F, Public Works Garage, page 17. Questions or comments? Item G, Snow and Ice Control, page 18. Anything, anyone?
Can I just ask one quick question on this?
Yep, you can.
What would the board consider, I've noodled around the idea at times of trying to reduce the amount of salt we use in our village. Our residents expect clear roads, snow-free and ice-free roads. The balance of that is we put on about 700 tons of salt in our village a year. So knowing what happens when we sometimes try to change our operational approach to things, mowing.
Who said that?
The ghost.
But yes, knowing that, you know, I guess, would you want me to continue to look into that, or is that something we continue to do? I know other communities are doing it, but what it does is it takes a change in the mindset of how we operate.
So Jeff, you would just reduce it somewhat and see if anybody notices a difference, or in the streets?
They will notice the difference.
They will?
So Randy, for example, Madison, they don't salt on the side streets unless it's,
Yeah.
is it 2 inches or something like that? Yeah.
2 inches.
And so when you go there, it's, you notice it.
Yeah.
you do.
Or we have dry pavement, you know, most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
What can you say about slurry, that beet juice slurry that they use up in Sun Prairie?
Well,
That's beet juice.
that's a whole different mindset. When you start looking into that, you're looking into equipment, that you have to, equipment, mixing tanks, the spreading equipment and that type of stuff. I mean, we could look into that, but it's,
And I think Beloit did that.
yeah,
for a long
it's
time.
a deeper end of the pool, you know, and I'm not from, I don't know where we would get all the beet juice.
So Jeff,
What, Shroot Farms.
you're just asking, just asking if it's okay to explore.
Well, I just want to know if the board would be in general support of reducing salt usage on our streets.
I would be in support of
would.
looking at that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to not only reducing salt usage, but any alternatives, bonus points if they're,
Right.
you know, cost effective and environmentally
Right.
friendly.
Yeah. And there's also, if we reduce the amount of salt, that's the amount of salt we're purchasing. And I mean, you'll notice, I mean, our salt budget is considerable. At $72 a ton.
My only caveat would be the streets have to stay safe. We can't reduce salt usage and risk dangerous road conditions.
And that's where the kicker comes, is what do you feel is safe? I mean, in certain parts of the country, people drive on snowy roads first five months out of the year, four or 5
In
months out of
Idaho.
the year. In Idaho, yes.
Chain
They
And-
do, yeah. You have a four-wheel
Right, I
drive
mean,
vehicle.
we didn't use salt, you know, in southern Idaho where I grew up. But, and, you know, that's just, like I said, it's a mindset of what you get used to. You know, you drive carefully and you have good tires and that type of thing.
But before we would do this would
Right.
go through Public Works.
Absolutely.
We'd have many meetings about it, because
Absolutely.
this is actually a bigger deal than mowing, because this affects many people in the
Right.
village.
Could we even have like a public hearing
Oh,
or
we'd
a
have to do
public
it.
something?
Oh, it would be, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not trying to muddy the waters. I'm just trying to say if
Yeah,
that's
this
one of
is-
these things every year when I go through this budget, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, you know, and I'm a little more jaded now than I was a year and a half ago.
Well, the city of
on
Madison's
these
looking
kind
at
of
it
things.
because they have a well on their west side that's getting contaminated by the salt.
They actually,
So they're-
have, yeah, well number 2, I think it is.
So they're
is-
being forced to look at it. But, I mean, this would be, to me, this would be something we wouldn't do this winter. You know,
No.
we would spend a year looking at it, and like Jeannie said, have maybe a couple public forums, do an educational process. This would be a big deal.
And Jeff, there's probably some data out there that we could share.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We could use the extra salt, put it on our greenways, and we don't have to mow at all.
True.
I just don't want beet juice
Please
in my
don't quote
drinking
that.
water, please.
Yeah, don't quote
Yeah, the
that.
consequences of what-
I don't know.
Typing.
I know. That does
is-
not go in the article. Okay, good.
All right.
So does that help? Does that help?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well-
Snow and ice.
But is there any difference for the roadways? Is it better for longevity of the side roads, is it better to plow them and salt them, or to let that much snow stay on it packed all winter? Does it matter?
The salt is
The
just
worst.
highly corrosive
Corrosive.
on everything, including vehicles.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
you got what you needed, Jeff?
I did, thank you.
Okay, yep. So item H, traffic signals, page 18, the cost sharing of the signals of the county will change in the future upon transfer of ownership of county roads to the village. Questions or comments, sir? Item I, streetlights, pages 18 and 19, Alliant Energy increased the number of fixtures on the village account. Currently miscounted, right?
It was an audit, yeah, they had, yeah.
So they,
That was what I
First the-
mentioned in my bullet point overview, was like a $27,000 increase. Yeah.
and the amount went up, of course. Item J, storm sewer, page 19. Item K, tree, brush, and leaf pickup, 8, 19, and 20. Any questions here? Item L, cemetery, page 20, adding a limited term employee position for maintenance of cemetery rather than contracting with a landscaping company. Any questions here? We've talked about this before previously. Committee? Okay.
That's good.
And then item M is a motion for items A through L.
I'll move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 19, special funds. Item A, sick leave fund, page 26. Item B, community development authority fund, page 35. Item C, preserve the water tower fund, page 37.
Okay, slow up. I can't
Yeah.
even get there, and I have
I-
flags, so you got to give me a chance.
That's what
to
you
get
gotta
there.
do is say, slow up.
I
Usually-
mark where my questions are, but it's like I can't even keep up.
Usually it looks like I get our speed up, but I heard the slow up real clearly,
Yeah,
so
okay.
I will. Because I'm not turning the pages. You guys go.
Oh,
right ahead.
okay. Yeah, I got little flags all over here.
Anything on the preserve the water tower fund?
No. And that's all zeros because
It's been preserved.
good for now. Oh, right?
We actually had to bring, I was telling this to Randy, we had to actually bring some money into the fund. There was a little bit of a deficit in 18, so.
And I think we'll do, we'll continue to do a little, we did the plant sale, we'll
Yep.
do some little.
Oh, yeah, I'm not
fundraisers
complaining.
Just to kind of pay for the heat and,
Yep.
but it's in good shape.
It's in good shape. Yep.
Now, I have to tell you, when I see that at night light, I really like it.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Can I
downtown.
just
Yeah, it's
interject
really
real
nice.
quick that
Yeah.
we have received, I received 2 contacts in the last year. One we've been helping them. The efforts of the water tower and everything have raised enough attention that another community has actually saved their water tower, and now they're seeking our lighting design and painting plans and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're moving ahead, so it's,
I communicate.
it's
When
effective.
We showed them the lighting of the tower, that sold their city council.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the and the OCA videos and everything on it. It's been good.
Plug for OCA there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a great thing, there's no doubt. We ready for item D, Herman Cemetery Trust Fund, page 38?
So am I reading that note correct? It says they gave the village permission to spend the remaining funds?
Correct.
So that means the principal,
Yes.
all of
We,
it?
we can zero out the
Yes.
fund, yes.
Okay,
We figure it'll take about 6 years.
okay. I was just gonna say, like, how much longer do we have to look at this
Yeah,
in
right.
here?
Yep.
6 years.
Okay, got it.
Anything else in that item? Item E, refuse and recycling, pages 41 and 42.
This is where we pay Pelletier.
Yeah. Anything here? Okay, item F, room tax,
Wait a
pages
minute.
43 and
Wait, I
44.
can't-
Sorry.
It's too many
So-
pages to flip through. I have a flag coming up, so give me a sec. Okay, no, we're good. We're good on the refuse and recycling.
Okay,
Room tax.
So in the room tax, after we learned that the hotel now will not open till the middle of December, we went back and adjusted the room tax. We will adjust the room tax budget to have less money coming in 18. Because we thought it was going to be open by the end of the month, and it's not. It's going to be only mid-December.
yeah.
So we had to just adjust the budget a little bit.
There was a nice piece on Channel 15 last week on the 6 o'clock news on economic development, focused on the hotel in Oregon and how things are moving right along in the village. It was very nicely done at 6 o'clock.
So what is the room tax in Oregon? What percent do we get?
It's
What's
5%, and we're gonna come in November and ask to raise it to 8%, and just be, you can go up to 8% per state law, and we're gonna recommend we just do that at the beginning.
Okay, and this, what kind of occupancy rate is this $100 guess?
We're using, I actually went back and used their accountant for the hotel gave us as part of their financial request for their TIF requests, their financial numbers. He was using like 61 or 62%, so that's what we were using.
Okay.
Actually, the $100,000 I'm showing there is actually less than. I saw how he calculated, and I did it a different way, and we came up pretty close, and I still just decided to lower it to 100,000 just to be safe.
Okay.
Other questions on room tax? Anyone? Item G, tax increment finance, TIF 2, special revenue fund, pages 47 and 48. And tax increment district TID number 2 was closed in 2018.
Yep.
Item H, TIF 3, special revenue fund, pages 49, 50, and 51. It's the third year of debt service for the Growmore loan for the downtown building, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Any questions on H? Item I, TIF number 4, Special Revenue Fund, pages 52 and 53. JAD Partnership LLC, which is headquarters, began paying interest on TIF loan in 2017. Interest payment will stay in TIF 4, but increment will be transferred to general fund to pay back the advance.
So rather than borrowing money, we did an advance from the general fund as a TIF loan to the headquarters. So now that money's coming back to the general fund.
Any questions, comments, anyone? Okay. Item J, TIF 5 fund, pages 54, 55, and 56. Tax levy allocated to the fund.
Right. So you remember that tax levy sheet that we talked about at the first budget meeting? We were showing that we're having to actually levy general property tax into TID 5 just to balance the budget next year. And it's mainly to cover the operating costs, because Jeff and I spend time in TID 5 and also the new planner role as well.
Okay. Any questions on item J or comments? Item K, workforce housing, page 57.
That just shows you in 18, the increment that was transferred from the closing at TID 2, and then Lisa's just showing the interest that we'll make in 19.
Okay. Any questions or comments on item K? Item L, TIF 3, debt service fund, pages 58 and 59.
Again, we're having to bring property tax money in here because the TID is not generating enough increment to cover the debt service. This is for the 2008, Lisa, right? Is it 2008 loan? 2008 loan that we did the downtown improvements on. That's the big loan that's in here.
Any questions on L?
It's 2008 or 9.
Item M, TIF 2, debt service fund, pages 60 and 61. The Perron Road loan paid off in 2020. Village escrowed this amount when closing TIF number 2.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of what it says. Any questions or comments here on M? Item N, TIF 4, debt service fund, pages 64 and 65. 2019 budget includes levy for debt service for purchase of former motel property and for engineering of Park Street and Janesville Street intersection.
So Jeff, that goes to your question about, we're going to be working on that intersection next year. And that's what we paid out at TID 4.
And what's the engineering looking at? We talked about a roundabout at that?
Well,
intersection?
so way back when the DOT was doing the improvements on Highway 14 and they put those roundabouts in, they for sure said, oh, you're going to have to put a roundabout in there. Then like about 2 or 3 or 4 years later, we had another meeting with them. And they said, well, no, I think you're going to end up having to put signals in. So
Because it's too close.
yeah, so
Yeah.
And the reason why they were saying, Jeff, just so you know, why they were concerned about the signals was that the traffic coming off of 14 would back up onto the off ramp.
Yeah.
And so what you can do, that on roundabouts, you can't control anything because it's really people and their hesitation, and if they, go. With signals, what you can do is you can actually increase your times during peak hours and everything to where you have a much longer, say, green through
Right.
that keeps things from backing up in that time period. so.
So they said that the third one would be too close, but it's okay on the other end of town.
It's just, well, but the difference is, well, the main concern was the traffic coming off of 14 onto 138 going west. That was always the main concern for the DOT. My point is, I'm not trying to pick on them, but they did change their mind a few times when we talked about it. This goes back probably 15 years ago already, we started talking about it.
Any kind of analysis there, we'll have to take a look at that, but I think what we've been told so far is that it's more likely a signalized intersection.
Okay. Okay, other items here, second year of revenue for Lincoln Road Water Tower lease, $72,000 of other non-operating income is based on an estimated 40 new homes multiplied.
Oh, Steve, you went
on
to
the
the
wrong
wrong
page.
page. You skipped ahead.
They did?
Yep. Yep. TIF 2 Capital Projects Fund, page
Page
66.
page 60. You just went to page 7.
It's a two-pager.
Oh, should have turned it over.
Yep.
Okay. It's trying to get us done. Item O, TIF number 2, Capital Projects Fund, page 66. No activity in that fund.
Yep.
Item P, Developer Stormwater Fund, page 67. The fund share of DiMaggio Park property acquisition is budgeted in 2018. Forward development stormwater payment reduce the advance to the general fund for the purchase of Florida Avenue homes. Jerry will be glad to know that.
I purposely put that on there for Jerry, and he's not here tonight. He's
probably watching.
Feeling under the weather.
He's not feeling well, by the way. That's
Yeah, that's why he's not here
So.
tonight.
Item Q, street improvements, pages 70, 71, and 72. Director of Public Works will review street projects. At the budget meeting with the village board, added $20,000 to preliminary budget for downtown wayfinding signs. So Jeff, it sounds like you are reviewing street projects with us.
Right. Yeah. So,
Yeah, can you say about the wayfinding signs?
yeah, we'll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly here. So we do have $300,000 for mill and overlay, $40,000 for the chip sealing, and $30,000 for crack filling again for this next year. We'll continue, we'll have those projects, and we have those streets that are proposed. It's not set in stone, but that's kind of how we do our budgeting and everything for that. And you can see those in the budget there on page 71. You can see we're actually planning for the street improvements, new construction, for Park and Janesville intersection construction. That is scheduled for 2019. It'll probably be a late season 2019 project, finishing this time of year next year. That is about it for I hate to say that's about it for streets, but that's still a lot for streets.
Yeah. Okay.
And the engineering we've already borrowed, or some of the engineering we've already borrowed for.
Can I ask, my neighbors were asking me the other day, because when they did the Elm and South Main improvements with the sewer line and all that stuff.
Yes.
Then we were told initially that Washington Street would be the next summer, and then it didn't happen, and then it didn't happen again, and so my neighbors are like, when is it gonna happen? And so I
Right.
didn't know what to tell them.
Right, Washington, State, and South Main Street are three of the ones that are still high on our radar. But again, getting back to when we go through the capital improvement plan, you'll see kind of where we've had to shift some of those around. We'll continue to do that every year, but.
For the
It's-
record, they weren't necessarily complaining,
Yeah,
they're just trying to
it's-
plan their household budgets, because they,
Correct.
and some of them are still recovering, they were corner lots, so they're still paying off the South Main part, and then,
Right.
You know.
Just remind those corner lots is they only pay the one side.
oh, that's true.
So
Okay.
they'll be fully recovered, and they won't
Okay.
have to anything like that. So they pay the longer of the two sides or something like that.
Okay,
So
so still on the radar, but looking like it might
it's-
not happen.
It's on the
for
radar, but it's been pushed out a
couple
few
years.
years. I can't
Okay.
remember the exact year for those, but yeah.
Okay, I'll let them know it's still coming eventually.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Other questions? on-
The downtown signs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just curious.
thank you.
Yeah, the downtown, actually, we've been meeting with the consultant, we've met with them, and I don't know if you remember, the board did approve to have the, kind of the initial wayfinding signage and study done on that, and we just met with them last week. Actually, I think it really looks nice. I think it's gonna be a nice, so we have $20,000 for signs and wayfinding. We can order the signs, get those, once it's all approved and everything and run through the board, they'll present to you, but,
So
then.
Jeff, just tell me, because I don't know, are they just to get people to different places?
Correct. What
Okay.
it does is basically it's a fold out that we can hopefully give the restaurants and have for people so that it identifies public parking areas and parkings and parking lots and streets and that type of thing.
Okay.
And then secondly is the actual wayfinding signs out on the streets that will help
Point you there, with arrow.
direct them to,
Okay.
Areas, whether it's down Elm or over near Birch or Broke Street or something like that.
Thank you.
In addition to foldouts to give to the local businesses, will we have like an electronic file that they can put on their website?
Absolutely.
and
Oh, yeah.
On our website? Okay.
Yep. And Facebook and our website and everything.
Any other questions on Q? R, Cemetery Land Purchase Fund, page 73.
There's a fund balance in there, that's just showing the interest on the
Yeah.
fund balance.
Item S, Office Equipment, Village Hall Building, Public Works and Parks Equipment, in Fund 414, pages 74, 75, 76, 77. Replace street sweeper, $260,000, pickup truck, $30,000, and John Deere mower for parks, $35,000. Any questions here, comments?
Jeff needs a new truck here?
We're actually probably moving my truck, which is 3.5, 4 years old, moving it down to Public Works, and then the new truck is actually gonna have some more storage space in it. Right now, I have nothing to store anything for, stuff, and so we'll actually be looking either at a extended cab or a quad cab that can store that type of stuff. And then when that truck cycles, we'll move it back into Public Works as well. And it'll be 4-wheel drive, because I got stuck out on the bike path last week. It's humbling when you have to call over the radio to have your guys pull you out of the ditch.
I would have liked to see that.
Yeah, I know you would have liked it.
I thought it was going to be 4-wheel drive because you weren't going to be using salt anymore.
Well, yeah, actually, that is something, I mean, during snow events
that's always thinking.
and everything like that. It's during the winter, we've had to load it full of stuff in the back just to give it weight to get around, and so it'll be good for that. And the John Deere mower is on our regular rotation. I moved everything from 3 years to 5 years, and that's part of our rotation. So, kind of as a cost savings.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Other questions or comments on this, anybody? Okay. Item T, Oregon Bike Trails, pages 78 and 79. Rotary Club's $1,000 annual donation, last payment in 2020, and funding and budget to address flooding issues on the Rotary Trail.
So I think I asked Mike before the meeting, this is the 300,
This is
engineering.
This is a placeholder number where,
Yeah.
we're gonna, obviously get
Yeah.
the engineer will come back with a proposal for the board to look at.
Okay. Item U, Southeast Business Park, pages 82 and 83, continue planning in 2019 for developing east side of Highway 14. And there's a concept map in the packet.
Yep. I think Amanda was asking about this, so
Yeah.
this is the map that,
Now I have more questions.
yeah, go ahead, please.
All right, let me pull out that map here. So it wasn't clear to me what areas of all of the stuff on here, are we looking at developing potentially everything in that orange area?
I know you're gonna ask that question.
Okay, sir, go ahead then.
I have an answer to that. Because people, when we first brought this up, there were some former board members that got pretty worried about it and got like, oh my gosh, we're going to develop 1,400 acres. I'll give you an example. So the village installed the west side interceptor in 2001. So it's going to be 2019 or 2019, excuse me. 18 years later, look really how little bit we have actually developed on the west side. I think the west side interceptor is actually more than this as far as acres. So even though this is a planning area, doesn't mean we're gonna. This could be 100 years out. To be honest with you, if you ask Mike Slavny, that's how long this could be. And initially we would just develop along 138. You know, the planned business area.
Sure.
And the thing that we would probably at some point want to get into is the office park. That's where you're going to get your really high assessed values that would be generating on that side of the highway. But again, don't be concerned that we're going to go out there and develop 1,000 acres. That's just not. The village doesn't grow that way.
Okay. Well, and my next question is, have we been in discussion with Town of Rutland or Town of Dunn or any of these,
It's only Rutland.
only Rutland?
Yep.
Okay.
And we had a meeting, early this year. We invited the town and all the property owners out here, and we had a discussion about doing this. And we've had other discussions with them in the past. And this will be the number one project that the new staff planner will work on. He or she, they'll be assigned saying, you need to coordinate this, including contacting the town.
Okay. I've kept here, I did get a phone call from a former board member about this. And there's like a cheese manufacturing plant being built out there. Where's that?
Cheese
on
packaging plant.
Cheese packaging plant.
Along 138.
Right along 138, south of it though.
Yes.
Yes, south of it, correct, yep.
So that's, where are we at here? 138. So it's in the purple, the planned business.
Mike, is that all that stuff I see that's going on out there with all the
Yes.
the pipes
Yeah.
and stuff? Is that for them?
Yeah,
So that's Town of Rutland.
that's correct.
That is developing that. Are they just gonna let us
We-
annex that, or how?
We cannot do a forced annexation.
No, but
No, I'm saying in other states you can, but in other states you can surround a town peninsula and annex it. You cannot do that in Wisconsin. So they'll just stay in the town.
Okay.
As long as.
and they don't need to be hooked up to our water, sewer, or anything.
Nope. Farm center, the same thing. Now, at some point, they may want to do that. They may want to, for whatever reason, they want to do that, and then they'd have to annex into the village.
All right. So we're looking further south of them in the Orange Business Park
We're looking
area.
along 138. If you look at,
Oh,
you
wow,
gotta,
okay.
yep,
So
yep.
further out
Mm-hmm.
towards
On
Stone.
both sides of 138.
Yeah.
So, for
both
example, if
sides.
you look.
Amanda, look at the screen there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, like the purple hatched kind of area is the prime first first area of focus. I'm kind of just
Yep.
going around it here.
Yeah,
And this is
yeah.
138 right through here.
There's on the northeast corner of 14 and 138, there's about 11 acres of prime development property that I think somebody will, as you head into Madison, someone will build on that. So I'm saying it'll be on both sides of the highway initially.
Yeah.
Okay. And then some of that in that purple area that you were just highlighting is a FEMA floodplain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what to do with that as well. Yep.
So I mean, is it legal? I mean, we'd have to leave that, right? We can't build on that.
Floodplain, it's some place you can, some place, I mean, depends on
Okay.
floodplain or floodway, but yeah, those type of things would all have to go into the development of that.
Actually, somebody, I think the Sweeney family is the family that owns most of the property out here, to be honest. They probably own 90% of the property along 138 in this area. And they hired Verbecker back in might have been 2011. They actually went through and did a mapping of the floodplain in the wetland area out there. So we have a map that we can use.
Okay.
But again, unless
All
somebody
right.
comes in and says, I want to develop 1,000 acres, this is going to be long-term development on that side of the highway.
All right. So we're not we're looking at the possibility that at some point, some developers might come and want to develop this area.
So
That's-
that was the article I gave you. To me, I think we do is we start doing the planning next year. We meet with the town of Rutland, we meet with the property owners. Again, this is what the planner would be doing. They'd be getting us ready to submit the submittal to the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission for a sewer extension. And if we get that far next year, that'll be a major achievement. Now, in the meantime, somebody approaches us and says, well, I'm interested in doing development, well, then we'll probably expedite that a little bit quicker. And this whole area that you're seeing, we developed this years ago because this was all going to be served by, it was called the East Side Interceptor. And it was going to come from the treatment plant, come under 14, go all the way down south to what used to be the Viridian property, which is now the Holford property.
Okay.
And that's why this is so large. Our initial lift station cannot serve all this property.
Okay.
But this is the service area that eventually could be served by sewer in that area.
Okay. And Rutland doesn't seem to have a problem with us potentially discussing.
I just talked to the chair
getting
after that
there.
meeting, and he just said, that we'll just need to talk, and we, that's where we left it. We haven't had a,
Okay.
formal discussion with them.
When we do, or in this business park that we're talking about on the other side of 14, how large are you thinking to start with?
The service area?
Yeah. Or just like that, the actual park. I imagine we're not gonna like do it all.
The
like,
lift
all at
station
once,
can serve, what was that, Jeff? 200 acres, 217 acres or something?
Well, the first part of this was like 180,
Was it?
probably was around 300 acres.
Was it? Okay.
But
there'll be
that's just a guess.
The lift station would be on the north side of 138, and that would serve approximately 200 to 300 acres.
The first phase of the lift station,
Yep.
because we had a report, and Jen, I could give you a copy of that report, but we had a report done last year. It's kind of an interesting read. It was an update to the idea of when we first had an interceptor, a gravity line going back to the wastewater plant, and we found that we could probably save about $1 million by going with a pump station. So then our engineers looked at that and looked at a graduated size of pump station. The initial one would be for a certain number of acres, and then eventually at full build out, it might be a much, much larger pump station.
So I think that's the report we talked about back, Kenny's whispering to me in January.
Is that January? Okay.
186 is initial acres.
186, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So then, I remember a discussion with you while touring the water sewer treatment plant that in, say 10 years, it might be more cost effective to use Madison Metropolitan
Yes.
Sewer District.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe. This is all big if, but, I mean, if we're putting in, would this pump station that we might put in also, would it then eventually feed into Madison's? Or, I mean, are we putting in a lot of infrastructure
No,
that wouldn't be used then, or what?
It would feed back to
The plant.
a main pump station that we would construct here at the plant.
That
That
would-
would then convey everything to, it's not unusual to have multiple, we still have pump stations in the village that would,
Okay, so it'd still be worth it to build
Yeah,
it because
we
it
would not be throwing
feed
any money
into-
away by.
Gotcha.
No.
But I think our approach is like, I kind of gave that example of that company Phoenix coming to Fitchburg, where Fitchburg is now doing that development. They waited for a company to come forward, and now they're putting the money into the ground. Fitchburg did that Lacey interchange, and it's called Uptown Village. That park's been sitting there vacant for many, many years, and so I think we just want to be a little bit cautious, careful about not doing that, and then hit a recession. Because I'll be honest with you, we almost started doing the sewer interceptor in 2007, a year before the recession hit. We have been sitting with that pipe in the ground for 5 or 6 years, paying debt service on it. So I think we'll be careful how we do this.
Okay.
Other questions on item U, anyone? Okay, item V, TIF 3 capital projects, pages 84 and 85, no activity in that fund. Item W, DNR grant, page 86, approximately $302,388 is owed to the general fund for the advance when purchased homes on Florida Avenue following the 2007 flood. Future developer stormwater fees will help to pay off the advance. The village used developer fees in 2018 to pay off some of the advance.
So this is the Jerry Bonlick question he asks every year about we should pay this off, and we finally had some money to at least bring the advance on a little bit. I think at some point we are probably going to have to write it off, but I would give it another 4 or 5 years seriously and see how much we can pay off the advance before we just write it off. That's my opinion. Yeah.
It was quite a process to buy those homes and get that done, but it was a huge plus on that side of town. So, any questions on W then? Item X, TIF 4 capital projects, pages 87, 88, and 89. Some of the staff planner's time is allocated to TIF number 4.
And TIF number 4 is the TIF that's down by the motel property.
Okay. Any questions here? Item Y, Oregon School District Forestry Grants, page 90. Village served as a receiver of a DNR tree planting grant for the school district. Basically, the money came in, we paid out the bills. The money came through the school grant, cost us nothing.
And so it's all zeros and it'll kick off next
Yeah.
year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, item Z, Civic Campus Plan Project, pages 91 and 92.
If you're wondering why this is zero, is because all the expense that will be generated by the building of the new library is actually in the library fund, not in this plan, or this fund anymore.
Okay. Any questions on Z? Okay, item AA, Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund, page 106. Any questions here? Comments?
So this, I'm not sure, this is the cemetery that we're getting the new.
Right, we have a portion of our funds, of every grave that we sell goes into this perpetual care fund, and it's kind of a fund that we're holding in reserve for unknowns at this time, perpetually. Perpetual is like even worse than possibly, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Indefinitely. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so we are ready for a motion on agenda items A through AA.
I will move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any last questions or comments?
I'm going to be a nay on Q and X.
And street improvements, Jeff?
I'm not going to vote to approve a negative budget.
I think you have to vote against all the items, so,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, unless, can we make a motion to pull any out?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
yeah,
know why.
that's
You could
what
do
you
that.
can do.
Yeah.
okay.
So what do we do? We have a motion on the table, though. Do we have to take that off?
Let's just withdraw it.
Withdraw it?
Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah, whoever made it.
I did, yep, it's
Is that okay? Okay. So Jeff, you need to make a motion to pull out Q and X.
I'd like to make a motion to pull out Q and X.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
Yes. Just to vote on them separately, right?
Yeah.
So we're not voting on them now, we're just making a motion to pull them out,
Yeah,
and
just
then we'll
pull
make
them out,
another
and there'll be
motion.
another motion to vote
Okay.
on them, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is a motion to pull them out. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right, so which one do we tackle first? wanna
You can
pass
do
the
Q and
rest?
X together.
So, well, okay, so I'll make a motion to not approve items Q and X. That's my motion.
Yeah, this is new territory.
This is weird, because if nobody seconds, it's gonna die.
Well, what I'm
Maybe
saying,
you
you,
should motion for discussion.
You could put a second on the floor for discussion.
Well, you can make a motion to approve it, it gets a second, and then you vote against it.
Oh, let's do that. But I don't wanna make a motion to approve
well,
it.
can we approve the other ones first, and just do A through AA except Q and X, and
Yeah.
pass that and get that done?
Then we have to withdraw this motion too.
Wait,
No, we don't, I'm sorry, okay. So we need to vote on pulling out Q and X.
We just
We did.
did that,
We have
and
it.
So
that
they're pulled out.
passed.
So now we can go back for a motion to approve A through AA except Q and X.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so need that motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
I'll second it.
thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, so we have the motion to approve items A through AA except Q and X. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
All right, and now you want to do just Q
Q
or
and-
just X, or both together?
we can do them together.
We can do them together, because I think I'm gonna be the only dissent.
Yeah. So you want to make a
Depends.
motion to
I
approve
want to
it?
hear your arguments.
So I'll make a motion, I'm not gonna make a motion to approve it.
Okay,
I'm gonna make a motion to deny or to dissent. I don't want to approve Q
well,
and
let's
X.
keep it simple, let somebody else make a motion to approve
I'll
it.
make a motion to approve Q and X.
Do we have a second? to
I'll
that?
second.
Okay, so we have a motion
There
to
we go.
approve Q and X. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Wait,
Okay.
weren't we going to discuss that?
It
thought
would
that
be
was
good to, yeah, I kind of
I'm
wanted
sorry.
to
I thought that was
discuss
the
it, but
point of
I
I
making.
forgot about that. Okay, we can go back and do that.
so scratch that. Never happened.
Discussion?
Okay, Jeff, let's hear it.
Yeah, that's,
I've been pretty clear. You know, I don't agree with the negative budget. It needs to be balanced and it needs to be close. So for that reason alone.
Okay.
so these are
Both are negative?
levy or
Yep. One's
like
negative
taxpayer
11,000
things?
and the
or
other's
is that-
negative 45,000.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lisa.
It's kind of the same concept as whatever that other fund was that we were talking about. The money was borrowed, we borrow money every year, and we have 3 years to spend the money. So there's borrowed funds in here already that we borrowed in 18 that will fall to the fund balance that we'll be spending in 19,
In 405.
in 405, in Q, item Q.
Yeah, yep.
So it's
not negative.
it's not really negative because there's fund balance to cover it. So I know I was thinking about this after you said that about the other fund, and I'm gonna call the auditors and see if I'm supposed to have a budget line in there, like we do in the general fund
Carryovers.
for like, yeah, using fund balance. Because then maybe that'll help you. I mean, it's good.
I think we asked them that once before, but we asked
Yeah,
them again, please.
I'm gonna ask her again and see if that's something that's necessary on the special funds. On the general fund, we have to do it because that one has to be a zero balance. But I'll call her and find out if we should be doing that on the special funds too, budgeting, showing that we're using fund balance. So that's really not a deficit. There's money there to cover it. It's just that we have it already. So if you budget it again, it looks like you're doubling what you actually received. So that's why it's not budgeted again.
I think that's what she said, Tony.
So I can find out from her though.
Sure.
And let you know.
Sure.
Does that change your opinion on Q and F?
I'm leaning towards what Lisa said the first time. Not that it would be not that you'd be budgeting for extra revenue, because that would be doubling, but that you would put a line item in there showing a transfer from, which
No,
would zero out the
It's not really
budget.
transfer, it's just saying that we're using fund balance.
When Lisa first came here, the old software that we had would have made you happy, Jeff. Was at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right, Lisa? At
Right.
the bottom, it showed you in like 18, the fund balance, and then it showed that you could actually you could see you getting pulled out into
Yeah.
19. But this software doesn't show that. I missed that. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the fund balances are in the various different
And
categories.
that showed
Maybe that's
that.
something we could add on to here then.
Yeah.
In next year, is what the current fund balance is.
'Cause usually
Yeah,
when I'm
I'd
sitting
like
in
that
Lisa's
too.
office and we're
We're
going
always
through-
looking at the old audits,
We're looking at
so
the
we know
audit.
what the fund balance is, so that we
Right.
know that we're not spending funds
Right.
that we don't have.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, I actually complained about that for a couple of years when we changed software, and then I stopped complaining because I think Lisa got sick of me saying it, so, yeah.
There was no way that I
You couldn't
could
do
come
it,
up with a way to do it like how the old version.
It
The
was
classic
it was a
version
good
did.
check too, you get,
I know.
It's a good way of checking yourself too.
Yeah.
But I think that dissent is healthy, on board, and if I'm the only one that's concerned about it, that's fine with me. I've raised the issue, we've discussed the issue, I think that's healthy, and if it passes, it passes.
We'll talk to the auditor, we'll come back with that.
And
answer on
we'll
that.
bring back answers for that.
And these
That'd be
funds, the fund balances do cover those
Yes.
Mhm.
deficits.
Right.
It's there. Funding.
The
So
money's
basically,
there,
you
it's
said-
just sitting in the fund
Okay.
balance.
Yeah, it's not actually a negative budget.
No.
Not
just
re-
looks that
no.
way, yeah.
It just,
Okay.
yeah, because we're actually using money that we already have
Yeah,
from prior years that we're spending in future years.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
just
Okay.
wanted to make sure there was enough to cover it because you
Yeah, and
can't
that's what,
see it. So
that's what we're,
good.
yeah, and that, you used to be able to see that in the classic
Okay.
version of the software, but not this version.
Actually, yeah, because you look back at, yeah, you're right, loan proceeds went in there, and, yeah, you're right. you're
Because
right.
we borrow the money and we have 3 years to spend it, and I have to track, like, to make sure that we're spending it. So I'm still tracking 2016
Well-
borrowed funds,
Sorry.
to making sure that we're
But even
spending
on
them.
page 87, if you look at the middle of the page, it says transfer from other funds, the board, there again, we took money out of the general fund balance in 18, put that into this fund, because we knew we were gonna have a deficit if we didn't do that. And, so it's not just the loan proceeds, it's the transfer in. Yeah.
Right.
So we had the same concern you had, Jeff, back in September, beginning of September, we started working on the budget. We thought we were gonna have a major deficit in this fund, so we figured a way to cover that.
Thank you.
Okay, Yep, thanks, Jeff. Okay, that takes us to item 20. 29?
Did we have to ask Q and A?
Oh, we didn't vote yet?
No,
You
Oh, we
did
did.
vote, but then you went back and discussed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you voted, it was six
We
to
voted.
one.
Yeah, that's what we did. We just.
We had our
Five-
discussion
five-
after it was
five
over.
to one. Yeah.
I didn't vote because I was asking about the discussion.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay,
Let's vote again,
Okay, so,
okay.
just to be sure.
so that was to approve items Q and X, right?
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
Okay. Did you vote, Jenna?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can't see you down there, so you can't tell, otherwise I would. Okay. Okay, item 20. 2019 water and sewer budgets, discussion and possible approval, pages 94 through 99H, water budget. List of things to read here. Village's water utility was reclassified from Class C utility to Class AB utility
Congratulations.
by the PSC in 2018. This occurred due to the utility having over 4,000 reported customers. It's the second year of revenue.
So now,
It's in your.
if you're looking for this, this
Yeah.
was in the packet you got
Tonight.
Friday.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we,
Thank you.
what
That's in the
Steve,
package in your mailbox.
what Steve was reading, it took Lisa some time to switch the utility over. We just didn't get it done by October 5th to hand it out.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So the other items here then, second year of revenue for Lincoln Road Water Tower lease. $72,000 of other non-operating income is based on estimated 40 new homes multiplied by current $1,800 water impact fee and review of water capital budget. So on those items, are there any questions or comments?
Yes. I just want to know what that reclassification means, other than a reclassification.
When-
A
Yeah.
lot more work.
That's kind of what I thought, but I just.
Actually,
Yeah.
the PSC, Public Service Commission, kind of puts you in different classes of how you have to keep track of things and how you have to account for things and how you label things and how you account for your labor and all that types of stuff. And you go into like a Class A, Class B, Class AB.
There's a class of D, C, and AB.
AB. And so as you get more and more services connected, you become kind of that higher level of scrutiny and review and everything in that. The difficulty is when that happens, it changes all your accounting numbers. And so Lisa's been working with PSC folks and other ones too, because what we had as maybe a 340 number before is now a 430 number.
Yeah.
I mean, it's caused some headache, but she's done a really nice job in bringing that to that point.
Yeah. I think we got it figured out now.
Okay, so we need a motion on item A, pages 94 through 99H.
Can I ask a question? I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
thank you.
So can you just point me really quick, Mike, to the $35,000 difference between 19 and 18?
Between 19
$35,000 difference in.
In expenditure, or in budget? The bottom line budget for the total water fund?
Let's see.
It's gonna be tough,
What
isn't it?
page?
What page are you on, Jeff?
99H.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You'd almost have to go through and figure out what
If it's too, because I see there's a
From
lot
the
of.
projected actual to the 2019 budget, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's,
The projected actual is really just what we anticipate we will end up with at the end of the year.
yeah, I think the revenues are coming in a little bit less than what we had budgeted. I know it's hard to decipher because basically now I'm working with two sets of accounts because of the change from the C to an AB. So if they were all right next to each other, we would be able to find that line really easy. But it's
think-
not gonna be an easy task.
Jeff, if you're asking, I mean, one of the things that we built, both in our water and our sewer utility, and have had, and actually been since I've been here, and I think even before, is our water utility and sewer utility have strong bottom lines, okay? That can mean two things. It could mean that we have strong bottom lines, or it could mean that maybe we're neglecting something somewhere in our system, and that's what we're continuing to look at. We're looking at that from a very strong standpoint right now with our sewer, with our facility plan. We'll continue to do that with our water because we have not raised rates for a significantly
So
long
it's like
time.
2010 or 11?
So I see ourselves in the next couple of years, we'll be ramping up that, we'll be ramping up projects to be able to kind of, so that my fear is I don't want to have something out there that is a long, all of a sudden hits us and we've got a $10 million project to upgrade stuff. You know, the other end of it is if you look at, say, I think it's City of Madison right now. Is it City of Madison or City of Monona? One of the
City of Madison.
City of Madison running a $7 million deficit last year in their water. You know, so and that's easy. It can happen. I mean, it's easy for that to happen if you happen to get hit with something very large. But we've continued to run. We've been very efficient with what we have, and I think run a very strong bottom line every year.
And that's, our rate of return has to be below a certain percentage before we can even do a simple rate case to raise rates. And we've been above that since I've been here, so we haven't even had the opportunity to increase rates.
So you're
Because
just-
our rate of return is high.
You're anticipating that there's going to be a big investment at some point, even though you can't see it.
With the new well,
Oh, right, exactly. The new well and the new water tower on the southeast side and everything like that. Those things are on our horizon. Our water studies point us in that direction, but it's not in that 4 to 5 year, you know, kind of. Well, the well is, but the water tower and stuff could be a couple years out as well. So,
Thank you.
yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions on the water budget? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item B is the sewer budget, pages 100 through 105. It's $100,000 of other non-operating income is based on an estimated 40 new homes multiplied by the current $2,500 sewer connection fee if the village decides to continue to collect this fee. There's a review of sewer capital budget, including future upgrades to wastewater treatment plant and master facilities planning. There's a note in 2017. The village initiated the facilities planning study for the wastewater treatment plant, which includes preparing 20-year design projections and evaluating the existing facilities and cost of upgrades required for continuing treatment of wastewater in the future. This study will also provide a preliminary user rate impact analysis. It will be completed early to mid-2020. So we need a motion on the sewer budget, please.
So move. I move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Got the motion second.
So
Thank you.
the capital was in your package you got Friday. The actual sewer budget's in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. We do anticipate a Vector dump station and sewage septic pump upgrade. We did borrow some of that last year. My short-sightedness is like, okay, we need to borrow it, but we really didn't have good grip on the entire project. And since then, we've been working with our engineers, and it's more like about a $320,000 project, and we'd only borrowed, I believe, $150 last year. So this will help us to get to that point. It'll also help improve our septic receiving station, which we're actually using a lot more now with our Vector truck. The other thing that, just to bring to your attention, and we had a very informative and sobering kind of meeting with our wastewater engineers about 2 weeks ago. And, you know, we had some sewer backups about 2 or 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. You know, and this has been a problem in our system, and we have what we call INI, infiltration and inflow. And it's basically clear water inflow into our system. So our plant can treat things exceptionally well, but we're getting a lot of clear water. So from sump pumps and from leaky pipes and cracked pipes and stuff like that, stuff that we see. And so when we have a year like right now, when it's really heavy water, highly saturated ground, we see a lot of water coming into the plant. And what that does is it tells DNR that, oh, your plant's at capacity. You know, or near capacity. Usually when you start getting in that 90%, they start to get concerned. So what we're finding is that, you know, we do need to address that. It's cheap insurance to try to address your INI flow, because that's water you don't have to send through your plant and treat. Okay, so what you're seeing in this next year's budget is INI studies. They come in the middle of the night and they take measurements down manholes and they measure between two manholes and can show that you're gaining, say, 10 gallons a minute between these two manholes. And you can evaluate that with camera, look at it, and then be able to determine if you have to line that line or whatever. So we have money in there for...
You're doing it at night because of low
People
flow.
don't flush at 2 in the morning and do laundry and everything at 2 in the morning. So you're going to see a more concerted effort from us and Public Works through for that for, in the future years. So we kind of see, you'll see that in the first part of everything through there. And then you'll see basically just some improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. We're going to start looking at, one of the things that we do anticipate that the facilities plan is going to identify, because we already know it's a problem, is upgrading our aeration blowers and the electrical components of that. So you'll see I have some engineering already planned for that. I foresee when the facilities plan gets done, we may come back to the board mid-year with a budget amendment to take a look at what that facility plan is telling us that we need to put as priority projects, so we don't lose another 6 months or something like that, waiting for the next budget cycle to come along.
One of the things that Lisa added to these, both the water and sewer capital budgets, that last column, we're showing the board that a project's going to be paid either out of borrowing or fund balance, just so you can tell where the funding's going to be coming from.
Can you say that again?
So when you look at this page here, 20, for example, 20B,
So it's in your packet.
in your packet.
The packet.
Yep. You look on this column right here. If it says FB, it's fund balance. If it's B, it's coming from borrowing.
My question for that, though, was kind of going back to the previous questions about the negative budgets, and it could have been borrowing from a previous year sitting in the fund balance. How much of those fund balance accounts is borrowed money that's been sitting in the fund balance waiting to be used, but we took out? I mean, you don't have to give me a dollar amount now, but that I was curious about if we
How much
could
is
make that a
sitting-
regular practice.
If these say fund balance, that it's not borrowed money. It's money that we're just using from our operating budget.
And the equipment replacement fund.
Yeah. So it's not money that we borrowed. This is just saying that.
The borrow, we're saying, like, for example, the very first project, if you look on 20B, that's all gonna be covered, that 320 is being covered by borrowed money.
Right.
Either previous years or in 19.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So
Right.
even if you're transferring it out of the
Right.
fund balance, if it was
Right.
borrowed previously, you're still counting it as borrowed money.
We, this is one of these things that we added because when we do this time of year, we have a perfect understanding of what is being borrowed and what is being paid out of fund balance. And then 6 months down the road, when we bring a request before the village board for approval of it, we're always trying to go back and say, was that borrowed or fund balance? And this is just a way for us to be able to keep tabs a little easier with it.
And we have to be careful, because we have to spend the money within so many years. So
3 years,
Lisa keeps an Excel spreadsheet, and she shows every time a purchase is made, we draw down in that borrowed money for that line item.
I had
Go ahead, Amanda.
a question in that, the tour of the plant again.
Yes.
There was that section, and I think it's under your 2019 list of items to be completed, is that fall protection for the sludge pits and aeration basin? Where
Yes.
they had to dig that out by hand because it got all,
No, that's
like,
actually,
blocked
but,
or was something else?
no, that's some screens and stuff like that. That's really not a,
Not
that's
a
just a
big
maintenance
deal.
thing right now that's not gonna warrant a
Okay.
project. The fall, part of our safety, part of the implementation of the safety program involved also that consultant coming into our plant and saying, you need to take care of this, you need to take care of that. One of the things is fall protection, when our guys have to go down into the clarifiers or go in to clear the weirs and stuff. There's lines that they can snap onto with their safety harnesses.
Those were inside the
Those were inside where the
circular-
swallows were
Yeah.
flying around and everything like that. So that's a project that we're
Okay,
gonna
and
have to.
that's
That's
in
part of
these?
this safety upgrades. I think it's.
Okay. Oh, there, for fall,
Yep,
I see it. I got it.
$75,000,
Okay.
yeah, safety upgrades at wastewater treatment plant for fall protection, with a note down there to number 6.
Okay. The swallows aren't gonna carry them up?
Got it.
Swallows do not need this fall protection. No.
Little harnesses on them?
Little tiny
Little
ones.
safety hat?
Other questions on the sewer budget?
I'm just going to make a comment that I'm going to approve it, even though it's a negative number, in light of what Jeff said about having borrowed $100,000 plus dollars last year for this project, but pushing the project into 19 because of information that you
Correct.
found.
Correct. Thank you.
So I'm going to be inconsistent, but for a good reason.
Yeah, that's another reason, that's good. Any other items on the sewer budget? A motion is second to approve the sewer budget. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So that brings us to item 21, discussion and possible action, approving the 2019 preliminary budget with changes, including the proposed tax levy, and setting November 12, 2018 as public hearing date. So I need a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions here? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. So there's no need to meet on Wednesday.
That's correct.
Thought we were going to get there tonight for a while.
We got through.
Item 23, discussion possible action, personal property write-off, Holstein Kitchen. Recommended motion, write-off of personal property tax, amount of $213.58 for Holstein Kitchen. There's a note the village would process a charge back to other taxing districts.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions or comments here?
Yeah, what happened? I don't know the history on
They
this.
didn't pay some
They
taxes.
just
so
skedoodled on their
It's their
tax
personal
bill.
property tax, they went out of business,
Yeah.
I don't remember when.
Well,
So they just forgot about $213 then.
Yeah.
They chose not to pay
They
it.
chose
Yeah.
not to pay it.
They didn't forget about it.
Ah.
Yeah.
This
I don't-
happens
They're just not going to pay it.
a few times. so.
Yeah. It happens usually with the businesses that go out of business. We are unable to collect. Because we can't put it on the tax roll, well, they don't pay it anyway. So we can't assess it to the property owner because it's
It's
the
not-
business.
It's personal.
It's the business,
Yep.
not the property owner.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see this again from someplace in the future, probably. Not the first time.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 24 is vouchers for approval, $390,161.16.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
Wait a minute.
So
I
Jerry
have something
Bollick-
flagged.
Goes to Jerry.
wake him up.
Oh, what is,
We went to
on this, just the second page of them here, City of Madison traffic signals? Why are we,
We share, that's a shared, we share the cost of that with City of Madison.
But they
They take care of them, they maintain
They
them.
maintain them for us.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Rather
all
than
right.
us having to
I've
hire. a-
probably seen that before, but it just
Yeah.
jumped out at me this
Yeah, they do
time for
the,
some
they
reason.
do the signals.
Okay, all right. And I got another tab here. The next page, oh, okay, the Peterson Pest Management for the youth center, is that one of the things that it will be dropping off, or will that be part of?
Yes.
No,
Sorry, I bit my tongue.
they'll be, they're gonna, that building's gonna be their building, so.
Yeah.
Right, so, but then I guess my next question is, are we, they're probably not gonna get as good a rate if they don't do it on a similar contract through the village. Is it
that'd
something
be-
we could bill
that'd be-
back to them?
That's
or-
just up to them, yeah.
That's gonna be up
Yeah.
to them.
That's up to them. Yeah, we can't get involved in it. It's not a village building anymore.
And I don't know how much our rate will necessarily go down considerably. And
No, I just was
the only
kinda
thing you'll
curious.
see is that the div, how it's divvied up this next year. I've gone through and evaluated that, and I've made a different
Okay,
divvy of it.
okay. That's it.
Any other questions on the vouchers? We have vouchers in the amount of $390,161.16. Roll call, please.
Staten,
Yes?
Peterson,
Yes,
Jacobson,
Yes.
Glish,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Item 25, Kellstrom Park dedication. There were written comments submitted from the Kellstrom family outlining the history of Wisco and its impact on the village. I read those comments at the dedication. There's a note from Mike. The village wants to again thank the Kellstrom family for their generous donations, which allowed the park board and village board to build the newest park in the village. And also thanks to Director of Public Works Jeff Rao for coordinating the construction of the park, including the recent dedication ceremony. It was well attended and nicely done by the folks that were involved, and it was fun to be there. It's a nice little park, a nice wayside for cyclists off the Rodeo Trail also, so it's good.
No soccer fields, though.
What's that?
No soccer fields at that one.
No. Item 26, FYI only, Wisconsin Department of Transportation, public involvement meeting for improvements to US 14 between 138 and Wisconsin 92 at Oregon Middle School on Wednesday, October 24th, 2018, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And item 27, presentation of new library feasibility report by Jim Radford of Baker Street Consulting at November 19th board meeting. How many village board members will be at the meeting?
That's the that's the Monday of Thanksgiving week, and last year, I think we had a couple people miss, so.
It's probably good to post
I'll be
it.
there.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Well, it's a regular board meeting that he's gonna come to. We just wanted to make sure we had enough board members here for him to come.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
once everyone's gonna be here?
Yeah,
Okay,
got it.
great. I will tell her that. Thank you.
Yep. Item 28, a motion for adjournment, please.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We made it. Thanks, folks.
Brewers are up 2-0,
Yeah.
top of the sixth, and Packers are down by 1, 21-20, and 2-minute warning of it. Huh? Jill hates that alarm. That was a. I thought there's no way, huh? What was that? It was an alarm I'd set for to call someone back tonight.
Oh,
At 8:30, I thought there's no way I'm still gonna be at the meeting at 8:30.
I just ignored it.
I've never seen Jeff turn so red before.
That was, that was.
Yeah.
Not embarrassed by it.
I know.
Yeah, I know, it takes a lot. Hey, Dan?
Yeah, sure.
Sounded nice.
So did you get all that, Randy?
Dan,
Budget?
sounded nice.
This week. Well, it goes in the paper on
I'm looking
Friday,
her right in the
published next
face.
So,
week. Right, yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
that's her dad.
That's what we're gonna do. Oh, no. No,
Oh, you
because
just want to say that?
I have to put a lot of stuff together to put it in the paper. I gotta do a whole,
Yeah.
I gotta take all these numbers and I'll put them into an Excel spreadsheet that we send to the paper.
And I did know that, and I totally spaced it.
Well, there you go.
Well,
The small world got smaller.
So if you don't want your budget language, you can just leave them here and we'll take care of them.
It's just for their
Unless you want to take them
advertising,
with
they
you, you're
spend
more
doing
than welcome.
That's why part of their time is allocated there, because we're guessing what the meeting and how much time they need to spend based on like what kind of projects. Because we, like, they have those street projects going down there, that's all part of
Anybody else
their
have
time.
questions?
Otherwise, it just.
Oh, no, I'm gonna hang on to it. I'd like to.
You hang on to yours, Dan?
Yes, I am.
I don't know if